manually writing out at my kitchen table.
No, I've been doing that since I was 13 years old.
Oh, you mean like when you handwrite? Well, that's not cursive. I'm just that bad.
I mean, I write this.
Yeah. Gotcha.
I mean, that's
Oh, by the way, we don't have weather
no, it's traffic.
or traffic. Yeah,
Okay.
we do have traffic. BRPT's the first upgrade you got.
What time is it scheduled for?
6:11.
Okay.
In the LSU Mcneese highlights, which ones did you want?
The last one from the first half, about Darius Days is 3. 1.7 and 1.8, I'm not sure which.
Just 1.8.
And then I want Parker Edwards as second 3.
Second.
Should be the second to last highlight of the second half.
It says 2 Evans, 3.
Hang on. What's playing right now?
Weather.
Weather, okay. Where's...
This is Mornings with Brian Haldane. Who are you? Brian! Mornings are for coffee and contemplation. News and newsmakers. Coffee and contemplation. Traffic and weather. Start your day with Baton Rouge's love for information and opinion.
6:05, Talk 107.3 FM, WBRP. Good morning, everybody. Brian here with you. Jake producing. We call it Mornings with Brian Haldane, and we are off and running on this busy Friday morning. We don't coast into the weekend around here. We take you in the weekend strong. We got a good lineup coming your way this morning. Going to run that down for you in just a little bit. But first, yes, we are running 1 minute early. That's because, well, computer problems again. We don't have traffic for you. And this is a bad morning to not have traffic because I'm looking at 3 accidents right now, 3 different accidents on the interstate right now. The first I'm going to tell you about looks like it's causing a number of delays. That is, come on. It looks like it is I-10 westbound on the other side of the Mississippi River Bridge. Or no, I'm sorry, right at the foot of the Mississippi River Bridge. So from the 10-110 split up to the bridge, or, well, I guess actually well before the 10-110 split if you're on 10 westbound, you are going to see some delays, some of them major. That is only going to grow as the morning wears on or until the accident is cleared up, whichever of those comes first. But here's the other thing. We are now seeing a second accident on the backside of that, I-10 close to, looks like the Washington Street exit. There is an accident there as well. So 10 westbound, if you're heading out of Baton Rouge to the other side of the river, you are going to see delays this morning. There's also an accident right now, but I'm not showing any delays as a result of it. On I-110, I believe that is, well, I can't tell if the accident's northbound or southbound from my view, from my vantage point here, but it's by the Memorial Stadium curve. So those are 3 accidents being worked this morning. Outside of that, we're not looking too bad on your surface streets. No accidents to report on your surface streets just yet. Hopefully, the traffic machine will be working in our next segment. All right, like I said, we got a busy show for you this morning. Haggai Davis is going to be on for a cup of tech gumbo. How much is ransomware going for these days? Does ransomware adjust for inflation? One of the many things we'll be talking about in our 635 segment. 7:15, we're going to talk broadband. A lot of talk about the infrastructure package this week, and deservedly so. $1.2 trillion being spent on anything should probably be discussed. Veneeth Iyengar, he's kind of our state's broadband czar, I guess you can call him. He's going to join me at 7:15 to talk about what Louisiana is actually looking at when it comes to, A, what we need, which by this time in the job, Veneeth took over this job, I guess, less than a year ago. And in that time, touring the state, getting to assess what our needs are. How much do we need? How much are we getting? How much of what we're getting will cover what we need? We'll talk with Veneeth at 7:15. 7:35, texting back and forth yesterday with Matt Kennedy. A lot of y'all remember Matt from a long time Baton Rouge radio career. He's my mentor. And he now hosts the Saturday morning show, Your Money Matters. Well, Matt is in the financial planning business now. He's in the retirement business now. And we were texting back and forth yesterday, and he sent me an article that kind of shocked him. And I was like, dude, we need to talk about this because it also talks about long-term planning. And now is a good time of year to be talking about long-term planning anyway. But the headline of the article reads, 43% of adults say they have financially cheated on their partner. Oh, what does that mean? What, I got a quizzical look from Haggai when I said that. What is financially cheating? Oh, we're going to break this down. This is going to be a fun segment at 7:35. Then in the 8 o'clock hour, ever heard of the Clark Mills Foundation? I believe it's Foundation. The Clark Mills Project. We're going to talk adoption at 8:15. Craig Mills is going to be in to talk adoption at 8:15, and you're not going to want to miss this. It is going to be an absolutely riveting segment. We'll round things out at 8:35, actually technically 8:40 with Dr. Josh Eachus. You heard Marissa Nuzzo's forecast there just a minute ago, talk about how the next round of the cold front might be sooner than you think. Well, we're going to take a look at this weekend, and we're also going to take a way too early Thanksgiving forecast. So Dr. Josh Eachus joining us at 8:35 or 8:40. Oh, plus bonus segment. This is going to be fun too. 9 o'clock. Heads up 9 o'clock. As soon as we're off the air, we've got a bonus segment just for YouTube. Saw an author of a book. The author's name is Jason Bailey. The book is called Fun City Cinema. All right, let me just throw this topic out there, and I guarantee you everybody's mind is going to have a different answer. What movie do you most closely associate with New York City? What movie, when you think of New York City, you think of this movie? I mean, think about it. Already you've got more than a dozen answers. Fun City Cinema breaks it down. Fun City Cinema has, an entire collection of movies. Everything from The Jazz Singer to King Kong to Midnight Cowboy to Taxi Driver, Wall Street back in the 80s. I've got so many more, and we're going to dive into all of them with Jason Bailey. That's heads up 9 o'clock, talking with him about Fun City Cinema. But like I said, stacked up lineup. We'll also have top stories and trending. We'll have the outside in. Jake will have this day in history. Coming up in our next segment, right after we take this break, we are going to take a look at sports. Will Wade's Tigers. Oh, I was on the board for that game last night. Oh, my word. Roughly a 40-point win over Mcneese. Now, to be fair, Mcneese, their program is in complete and total disarray. Nonetheless, it was impressive. We're going to take a look at or hear a little bit from that last night. Also, Sean Payton looking to get himself fined. We'll break that down next as well, right after we check traffic on Talk 107.3 FM. Before we hit that break, though, got to remind you about the folks over at Baton Rouge Physical Therapy. All right, with the weather changing, do you feel more aches and pains? Do you recognize more nagging injuries that you may have been able to avoid before, but you roll out of bed and it's just a little bit colder in the house? That little tweak in the lower back, it stings just a little bit more. How about getting yourself a complimentary screening and learning if there's something you can do about it? Because odds are there is. The folks over at Baton Rouge Physical Therapy, they'll sit you down. They will listen to your story. They'll understand your unique circumstances, including any anxieties or frustrations you might have about physical therapy. and they'll work through to getting you back to being your best you. Visit them at brptlake.com, brptlake.com. They've got 6 locations throughout the greater Baton Rouge area. You want that complimentary screening? Maybe call 917-9185. Of course, area code 225-917-9185. Be better than your best. Think physical therapy with brptlake.com. I am already doing better than I did the last time I was late.
The only New York City movie that it even came to mind was Ghostbusters.
Ghostbusters is my number 2. Home Alone 2 is on the list, yes.
But I guess if I think about it, Midnight Cowboy.
Midnight Cowboy is on his list. Taxi Driver's on
Taxi
his
Driver,
list.
yeah. Oh, The French Connection. Yeah.
Ooh, good. It's hot in here. It's cold outside and hot in here.
So the dude.
How about The Godfather? You never associated with New York. You associated with Vegas or even Los
But
Angeles.
the first one was New York.
Yeah. The first one was in New York, Vegas, and L.A. He goes and visits Jack Waltz.
So what's the adoption? Is that recorded already, or is it?
This is a guy, he's a really great guy. I coach his daughter in basketball. You'll want to hear the story. It's basically about people that are up for adoption or up to adopt and then they get shafted. It's really heartbreaking stuff.
I think my wife may have worked with this guy.
YouTube, I'll be along shortly. I was super duper late this morning, and I'm still getting all my paperwork together.
I do want to organize we have a lot of cuts.
The what?
We have a lot of cuts.
For this segment, I want 3. I want the Days one, the last, and then the Parker Edwards' second 3-pointer, and then the Sean Payton cut that I emailed you.
Okay.
And that's it.
No weight cuts.
Oh. What did Wade say in the post game? What are the titles of them?
On the start, settled for long twos early on Easton's night. Grading his defense. Previews Belmont, comments on energy and PMAC.
Previews Belmont. No, let's talk about his defense.
Talk about defense?
Yeah.
Alright. The defense cut is cut 4.
Okay.
Which is perfect, actually, because that'd be the 4 cut we use.
So, we never, me and Paula, we're not on the radio ever together kind of thing. But I think my wife worked with this guy.
616 Talk 107.3 FM WBRP. We've got a lot more ground to cover in this segment than I think we have time for, so let's dive right in. 85-46 LSU men's basketball topping the Mcneese State Cowboys. Kim Mulkey's team wins their first road game of the year as well. They went to UL Lafayette. I believe the final score there was 70-41. Tied at 10 after the first quarter before Mulkey and her crew really turned it on to run away with that win at ULL. But bringing it back home, 85-46 last night. Now, to be fair, Mcneese is not in a good spot right now with basketball. They're in a spot right now where they are playing is a win, okay? After last year's storms and the damage to the campus and everything, they've got 12 guys on their roster who this is their first year at the school. Between transfers and walk-ons and freshmen, they've basically got a brand-new team, and it really showed. One of the things that stood out for me, as an observer, as a fan, as a viewer, as a lover of basketball, was the defense last night. I mean, it was smothering. There were takeaways after takeaways. There were forced errors and turnovers, and LSU was just absolutely smothering on defense. This is no LSU opponent this year, as the Tigers are now 4-0. No LSU opponent has scored 60 points. Well, last night, Mcneese didn't even score 50. So clearly, Coach Wade is going to be thrilled with the defensive performance, or will he?
Thought we were solid. We gave up too much in transition. The transition defense hurt us more tonight off our live ball turnovers and bad shots. I thought our half-court defense was pretty good. We were a little bit late on a couple of rotations, but I thought our half-court defense for the most part was pretty solid. We had a couple scouting report errors that we got to get corrected. We had our hand down on Francois when he hit the first three, and a couple things like that. So, I thought it was solid, but nothing to write home about.
There is a level of performance to being a coach, and I'm not talking about antics, yelling at the referee or whatnot. I'm talking about when you walk away from a runaway win, not being satisfied. Then you'll turn around when you get closer to conference time. Your guys are going to give their all and come up short, and you're going to be super duper proud of them. He sounds last night after an 85-46 win like they barely squeaked one out. But they'll come back around later on in the season when gearing up for the tournament, and it'll be a polar opposite vibe. That almost sounded disappointed. Anyway, a wealth of highlights from last night's game. One thing that I took away from it was how quickly LSU could score in spurts. Right before the end of the first half, Darius Days hit a three that was on the back end of a 9-0 run, and it was phenomenal. Here's how the Days three sounded on the end of that run.
Pinson with another steal. LSU, Days. String music from the left wing, and Darius Days and the Tigers explode to make it 43-16. Back-to-back-to-back buckets, a 9-0 run over the last minute, 9 seconds.
It's impressive. Chris Blair on the LSU Sports Radio Network on the call. One more from Voice, and that is towards the actually not even towards the end of the game. Second half, closer to the end of the game, but not all the way down. Parker Edwards got in the game with more than 8 minutes to go. Parker Edwards quickly becoming a fan favorite, a crowd favorite. Not only did he get in the game, but he hit not one, but 2 3-pointers. I tell you what, we're going to break right here for the Fox Business Report. We got 1 or 2 more highlights. Also, we got to get into Sean Payton a little bit and talk LSU football as well. That's coming up next. You want? The Parker Edwards 3 and the Sean Payton cut. Yeah, and then we'll get to the LRN cuts. I hate press releases that have the contact information on the second page. It's a waste of paper. So the plan is once I get moved back into my office to be able to have one big show document. That's press releases, it's segments, it's interview questions that I've got mapped out everything. When we flooded back in 2016, we just never.
Oh, at your house?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought you were coming downstairs.
Oh, no. I want to be able to do everything from home.
Oh,
I would like the show printed before leaving the house, or before going to bed at night, and then plug and play where I need to in the morning. The show's never finished until it's over with.
yeah, I
Yeah.
By the way, you have a BR mattress library at 46.
46, you got it. I'm going to do that right before news, just so I don't have to interrupt.
That's why
Hey, guys. I appreciate it. All right. Go there. Do I have a full minute here?
yes. You have like a minute and a half.
Want to learn a new language so it will actually stick? Try Babbel. Practice real-life conversations in Babbel app. Get personalized help in Babbel's live online class.
Classes are limited to 6 people, so everyone can get the help they need.
Complete words and phrases with fun games, or add pop culture with short videos. Whatever your learning style, Babbel gives you the tools to learn. Babbel, more ways to learn. Now try Babbel free at Babbel.com. That's BABBEL.com.
If your family depends on your income and something happened to you, what would happen to them? You need life insurance, and SelectQuote can help you get it at a price you can afford.
SelectQuote found Jacob, 40, who's in excellent health, a 10-year, $500,000 policy for only $19 a month.
Not in perfect health? Don't worry.
SelectQuote found Tanya, 40, who has type 2 diabetes, a 10-year, $500,000 policy for only $32 a month.
We shop companies like Protective, Prudential, American General, and others to find you the company with the best rates. Give your family the security they need at a price you can afford.
For your free quote, call 1-800-519-0449. That's 1-800-519-0449. Or go to SelectQuote.com. That's 1-800-519-0449.
SelectQuote. We shop, you save.
Get full details on the example policies at SelectQuote.com/commercials. Your premium could vary depending on your health, issuing company, and other factors. Not available in all states.
624 Talk 107.3 FM, WBRP. Cup of Tech Gumbo coming your way about 11 minutes from right now. Picking up where we left off with our sports, though. LSU with 85-46 winner last night in the PMAC over Mcneese. You got to love when the crowd is all in behind one guy who's coming off the bench late in the game. Parker Edwards got himself more than 8 minutes playing time last night. He doubled his career high while at LSU, but not on LSU's court. That's an important point to note. He doubled his career high when he took the Tigers from, I believe, 80 up to 83 with this three-pointer.
Gaines back to Edwards, wide open right corner. Here's the three. Go! Parker Edwards ties his career high 3 points with the bonus ball from the right corner at 71-32, and the fans go wild here at the Maravich Center.
Sorry, 71. 71 would have been. I think that was his first one because his second one was a little bit later. It doesn't matter. You just 71-32, and you can hear the crowd still that dialed in, still that hyped up. LSU will play Belmont on Monday. Moving from college basketball to college football, LSU football Tigers. Ed Ogeron's second to last regular season game going to be tomorrow night into Sunday morning. I hope not. I shuddered at the mere thought of it. Anyway, LSU kicking off at 8 p.m. against UL Monroe. This should be a walk. It should be. You never know what you're going to get, but LSU is a big favorite in this one. Coverage on our sister station, Eagle 98.1, I believe begins at 3 p.m. Now over to the NFL. Sean Payton was on the Dan Patrick Show. And I've really got to wonder if he's just working to get himself fined or in trouble in some way, shape, or form. Listen to this interaction between Dan Patrick and Sean Payton.
I don't know if you've watched yourself on the sidelines, the reaction in that game, but if they were thought bubbles, I'd love to know what you were thinking.
Look, I can recall a little bit of it, and I think in back at 10 years ago, I'd have been. I think it was. I may have been thinking that, but I think, a little bit calmer, and just I hate getting to the point where it's expected. Where like you're numb, but those kind of things can't happen. They just and And I look at that more from an overall leadership perspective and training perspective, and like that, those problems start at the top, not at the individual crews.
He's, of course, talking about NFL officiating. We obviously aren't going to play back the full interview, but he's talking about NFL officiating, and he says it's so bad you're to the point where you expect it, to the point where you're numb. And he says the problem is at the top. Peyton would go on to say later on in the interview he believes that NFL officials should be full-time officials. Being an NFL ref should not be a side hustle. I don't think many people would actually disagree with him on that. But you know what happens anytime anybody speaks up against the NFL, especially when it's Sean Payton. We might pick back up with some more sports later on in the show. Right now, though, we do have to move forward. You're going to hear a story in our news coming up here in just a little bit about medical marijuana and the Medical Marijuana Commission having a meeting where lawmakers questioned Ag Commissioner Mike Strain about timelines for the expansion of the products. Kenner Representative Debbie Villio referred to highly detailed rules about testing and regulation and accused the agency of micromanaging when it comes to those timelines.
I don't see that that's about public safety. I see that's a back and forth that drastically delays product from getting from the grower to the pharmacy.
Now, Strain had told our news partners at the Louisiana Radio Network it's the legislature that approved the very strict requirements for marijuana because it's medical grade and it's intended to be used by patients who are ill.
What we have to do is assure that the product is of the highest quality and is absolutely safe.
We've had numerous guests on this show about medical marijuana. We've talked to Strain about it. We've talked to John Davis about it as well. This is one of those ones where a lot of us are just like, yeah, we'll take the delayed timelines because we don't want to see it go away. We want the positives from medical marijuana, not the other way around, and have it taken back away. The most recent expansion by the legislature will allow medical marijuana to be sold in smokable form starting in January. The commission heard from various different parties with vested interest in medical marijuana, their frustrations about delays in the regulatory process. Baton Rouge Representative Scott McKnight, he sounded off on those concerns.
Everybody's here representing their own interests and trying to get a process right. It's our job up here to take everybody's interest, understand it, take it in. At the end of the day, is to make it right for the consumer.
Here's the spot where I'm not, and hopefully you're not as well, is if you have a family member who is in need. Waiting on timelines is not ideal for someone who's currently in pain or has a relative who is currently in pain. And that's why we're seeing so much movement on this, is because when you start to see the actual effects and how effective it can be, knowing that there's that many more people out there who are still waiting. It's frustrating. By the way, LSU and Southern University and their private growing partners are the only approved entities that can legally grow and process marijuana for medical use within the state. You know what? This sounds like a topic we need to pick up next week as well, which we will do. Hey, quick break for news. We'll start with CBS, then we'll check our local news, traffic, weather, then a cup of tech gumbos coming your way right after the break. After LRN news, but before traffic, come back to me at 6:30. What would it be? 4?
Yeah.
Okay. I'll do my Baton Rouge mattress there. So there was a lunar eclipse last night during the football game. While Atlanta was playing New England, there was a 3-hour and 28-minute long eclipse. So Atlanta got hit by 28-3 again. I don't know. I was listening to the NFL report this morning on the way in. I didn't even see it. I was bored up in the game and then went home and got to work on the show. I'm finally convinced the Earth is flat. No, I finally heard an argument that's irrefutable. Irrefutable. I'm dead serious here, Hat Guy. The Earth is flat.
Tell me the argument.
The Earth is 70% water. 70. Hear me out here. The Earth is 70% water.
I've heard that.
Not one drop of it is carbonated. Oh, thank you. It's a stolen joke, but I love it. So good. So good. Oh, you grown now, but you're gonna steal it. You know full well you're gonna steal the shit out of that. Oh, saw that one on TikTok. I was crying, laughing. So bad. All right.
That's dad joke quality.
Oh, it's beyond dad. It's like beyond Cade. Yeah, Parker works his ass off at practice. He's a hell of a teammate. But that's how we grow him in Covington. Get your Black Friday shopping done right now over at the Baton Rouge Mattress Outlet. No, you're not buying everybody on your Christmas list a mattress, unless you really love them. But Black Friday pricing is available right now at the Baton Rouge Mattress Outlet, both locations, 4065 Florida Boulevard or the corner of Jefferson and Hoosier 2. Get name brand queen-size mattresses for $399. These are normally $899. The King is knocked down from $1,100 to $549. Twin gel memory foam, $119. That's down from $249. Mention you heard about it here to get your Black Friday pricing right now. Black Friday happening a week before Black Friday over at the Baton Rouge Mattress Outlet. Oh, also, you got to mention you heard about it here to get the Black Friday pricing, but you also need to mention you heard about it here for free delivery and a free pillow. Savings on top of savings by just mentioning the show at either location of the Baton Rouge Mattress Outlet, 4065 Florida Boulevard, or the corner of Jefferson and Hoosier 2. Yeah.
Which ones you want to do?
I
mean, there's a lot of really good ones.
Yeah. I don't want to do the true cost of upgrading your phone.
Yeah,
because you can extrapolate so much from that.
Yeah,
that's like, yeah, if you don't start saving money when you're 18, that sort of thing.
And that's kind of what we did with it.
Yeah.
We took it more of, is it really worth getting a new phone every other year or every year?
Right.
That's where we went with it. We didn't spend a whole lot of time on the Susie Ormond portion of it.
Gotcha. The one about the centrifuge.
Yeah.
The Russian debris I like as well.
Yeah.
The second segment we'll do 10 things every parent with a connected kid needs to know.
We spent almost 15 minutes on that.
Okay. Well, I mean, we'll spend 8.
I know.
For sure.
It's great stuff. I mean,
at some point, and I wasn't able to get to this in the, I didn't even read it, I just saw the headline, because at this point I knew. More than a third of women in tech are eyeing the exit in the next 2 years.
We didn't get to that story this week.
Okay.
But we'll use it next week, kind of thing, or 2 weeks, whenever.
Well, it's an industry that has been notoriously the nerdy boys club. And they're bad about it, and they don't do anything to fix it, but they get to pretend to be woke everywhere else in life.
White male club.
Yeah. Oh,
Not
God, yeah.
just nerdy boys, but white male.
Yeah. Well,
and to have women, a third of the women in the STEM fields looking for the exit door is just really bad news.
Yeah.
Because, I mean,
it's not a good look.
Being in this industry, we need more women in this industry.
Yeah.
We really do. I mean, it's...
Yeah, but it's...
But it's not...
But it's...
No, you're not. The rest of the world is just slipping. Join us weeknights at 6 on Talk 107.3, the new flavor of talk.
Socially awkward to the point of being creepy. I'm not going to push one way or another, but geez, yeah, a little bit better.
A lot better.
Morning, everybody. How's things going on the... morning, Christy! I hope she's still listening. I get a very brief window of her actually being able to pay attention to the show before the morning circus begins. Troy's 100% right about Mcneese. Plus, they got a guy who's 7'1" and has mobility.
I saw that.
If you're 7'1" and you could play a 5-out offense, bruh.
Check out Tech Gumbo, presented by Cardinal Capital. Saturday and Sunday at 4.
We got 30 years worth of files right here in this computer that are going to bring you down.
A cup of Tech Gumbo on Talk 107.3. I'm sorry, wrong password.
639, Talk 107.3 FM, WBRP. Cup of Tech Gumbo coming your way right now. He's Haggai Davis, host of Tech Gumbo. Welcome aboard, sir.
Glad to be here.
We got a lot of ground to cover today.
We
but
do.
Before we get to any of that ground, I got to set the table here. I'm not going to see you again until like the second Friday in December, man.
That's right.
I mean, we got Thanksgiving next week, so we're going to be off. It'll be a best of or a CBS program next week. Then the week after that, you're filling in for me on Friday, and hopefully Thursday. You're filling in for me next Friday, the Friday after. I'll hit you up after the show for Thursday if you're available. If not, I can find somebody. But yeah, I'll be out of town those 2 days, and then we'll reconvene. Just in time for the holidays.
I understand.
Which is a good time for all those nice little reminders.
Before we get started,
yeah,
it's good. Sorry about that. I forgot to mention a week or so ago. We started our 8th year at Tech Gumbo.
Yeah,
and so excited, and it's just been really cool, especially because the show is me and my son, and so I get to talk to my kid,
right,
at least once a week,
right,
kind of thing, which is really cool. But just wanting to thank the listeners who've listened to our show for all the years that they have. I mean, the show has grown and grown, and now that it's in podcast as well, it's really cool to have people come up on the street and say, "Man, I love your show," and I listen to it all the time, and I'm always amazed when anybody wants to spend time listening to anything I say. It just fascinates me, and so thank you to the listeners who listen to Tech Gumbo.
Absolutely, and yeah, it has grown, and we've hopefully fostered that over these last 8 years.
Very much so.
Let's dive in for this week.
Yes.
I'm thinking about getting out of the radio game. I want to get into ransomware. It seems more lucrative.
It is a wildly profitable business.
Average ransomware payment for U.S. victims more than $6 million, survey says. Survey says!
The interesting thing about this article, there's several really fascinating parts about it. In the U.S., the average ransomware is almost $6 million. In Canada, the average ransomware is almost $5 million. But when you go across the Atlantic to the United Kingdom, it's only $850,000 is the average ransomware. You get to Germany or Australia or the South Africa, it's $250,000 is the average ransomware.
Why? Is it just market based? Is it based off of what they think they can get? Are they not bold enough to ask for more? Do we have better hackers? Do we have better?
We have that much more money.
Well, yeah.
And so when you're telling me that you can get 25 times more ransomware money in the U.S. than you can in Germany,
right?
There's a problem here.
We're the shining city on the hill, man.
the other part of this is that the industry, this survey was going around talking to IT companies basically and cybersecurity professionals.
Yeah.
And the frightening thing about this article is almost 50% of the respondents said they don't use offsite backup of their data, and they're cybersecurity professionals.
Right.
This is my industry.
I missed that part.
This is my industry. People come, we go around to all of our clients, telling you got to have offsite backup. The 3-2-1 thing, and to tell me that you're not backing up your own data is just absolutely frightening.
Now, despite the lack of backups, 83% of those surveyed said they could, quote, get all their data back without paying the ransom. How?
Yeah, smoke and mirrors.
Yeah, I figured.
Pulling information out of emails and different things like that. I don't know. I just think it's.
Well, here was my
very
takeaway
bad.
from that. 83% said they could. Not 83% showed that they have.
Exactly.
Which is a completely different story.
It's a very hubris industry, shall we say.
Yeah, big time. Speaking of which, a number of senators are calling for improved ransomware protections for K-12 schools. I would have never dreamed that we would live in a world where we have to protect our elementary schools and high schools from ransomware. But here we are.
Schools have money. The schools are backed by tax dollars.
They've also got cream corn and square pizza.
But they have money, and so if you shut down a school's network, then that they can't operate. So schools, we got money. They really don't, but that's the mindset of the ransomware crowd. And to think, so the Department of Education has not updated their guidelines since 2010.
Okay.
And it was 10 years prior to that. Apparently, they think that every time the U.S. Census comes out, they should update their guidelines for cybersecurity.
I mean, should they?
I would hope it'd be a little more often, but apparently it hasn't been.
I'm just saying, let's get a start. Baby steps here, Haggai. Baby steps.
Yes. Come on, come on. Let's just do this the right way, boys and girls.
Yeah.
Let's put together some policies that make sense.
This call to action follows the publication of a GAO report, Government Accountability Office report, on November 12th. It finds K-12 schools are, quote, less likely to have federal products, services, and support that can best help them protect from cyber attacks. Now, every school system, and don't think of schools as like an individual school. We're not talking about necessarily like Broadmoor. We're talking about the EBR school system where the payroll would come through, right? Where your checks would come through, your retirement would come through, all of it. We're not talking about like a teacher posting up assignments for her students.
No, we're talking the personal records of the employees and the students.
And the students.
Because all of your Social Security numbers, all of your information is all part of that record.
We have a minute and a half till break. After break, we've got way more ground to cover than we have time to cover it in. After the break, we're going to talk about a startup. I'm just going to read the headline and give you this last 60 seconds before break to tee it up. This startup wants to throw satellites into orbit with a giant centrifuge.
This is the coolest thing. This is a 165-foot tall centrifuge up that's kind of on its side, and this thing is throwing these little ballistic missiles, if you will, up into space. It's only about a 450-pound payload, so it's not very big. But this thing, it is. They've used it. There's a video that you can watch, and it launches these things into low Earth orbit.
What's the difference? I mean, once it gets past a certain point, won't it just float?
No.
Okay.
No, it's got to get into the low Earth orbit to maintain itself, but it doesn't have any fuel. So
right.
So it part of the article talks about not having fuel. So
I tell you what, we're going to explore the millions of ways this can go wrong right after the break. We're going to check traffic. We're going to check Your Money Now. Cup of Tech Gumbo returning right after this on Talk 107.3 FM, the new flavor of talk.
Attorney Peyton Murphy has been fighting insurance companies for over 28 years and recently won an $18.9 million verdict for a crash victim. Trust his experience. Offices in Baton Rouge. Results may vary. This year, we're letting our customers pay for us. When I needed a new roof, I went online and checked out all the reviews available. The name that came up time and time again.
Should have hit the dump button there. I didn't get to it quick enough.
It doesn't work.
Oh. Good to know.
Not an issue. Putin's got Borat on the payroll. Great success.
Putin's got so many employees. These multi-story buildings.
Yeah.
Full of coders. I mean, it'd be interesting to know what percentage of the gross domestic product of Russia comes from cyber crimes.
Yeah, and what percentage of their budget goes into creating cyber crimes or harvesting or harboring cyber criminals?
It's a thing.
Yep.
The parent company Facebook no longer exists, Jennifer Kashenko. It's now Meta.
Have they made the official change? Okay.
Yeah, I mean, they've changed the sign outside front of the building.
Bunch of horse shit. I went like 3 days this week without even opening Facebook. Didn't miss it. No, I said I haven't opened it in 3 days.
I've gotten to where I'm looking. I look at it less and less and less.
It's just not as compelling anymore. I'm just off it. I'm off the anger.
Yeah. Oh, I've unfriended so many people.
Yeah, I got involved with and I don't know why I responded. I never respond to this shit, but an anti-vaxxer. And Cup of Tech Gumbo rolling right along. Alongside Haggai Davis, Brian Haldane here with you. We'll get you to the CBS World News Roundup shortly. All right, we're going to dive back in here because this story is just so stupid it's got to be true. This startup wants to throw satellites into orbit with a giant centrifuge. They're called Spin Launch because, of course, they are. Their vision of the future is the orbital accelerator, a massive centrifuge that can accelerate a small vehicle to thousands of miles per hour. Haggai, did the slingshot not work?
The Acme couldn't supply the rubber bands.
Spin Launch and their CEO, Wild E. Coyote.
Yeah, this is a thing though. They really did launch and then this ballistic missile that they sent up there.
Mm-hmm.
It didn't quite make it to orbit, and it did work its way back down to Earth. But this was a test concept to prove that it could work, because the rockets, the heaviest part of the rocket is the fuel.
Yes.
And they're saying, well, if you don't need the fuel, then you don't need the big heavy rocket, because we're not trying to get something to the moon. We're just trying to get something to low Earth orbit.
Right.
Put a little bit of fuel on it so you can maneuver around once you're into orbit. It just looks it looks funny.
Yes, it does look funny, to be sure, but the whole concept is very Uncle Rico from Napoleon Dynamite. If I could throw this football over that mountain.
Yeah.
That's basically it. How do you want to launch the satellite? Let's just throw it. Throw the satellite. This shouldn't be for reality. This should be an episode of Big City Greens on the Disney Channel.
We just wanted to prove that we can do it.
I'm going to launch a chicken into space.
We don't need explosions anymore.
Okay, so if they can get this literally and figuratively off the ground, and they could put something into a lower orbit, what's the likelihood that they could go even further and just fling something to the point where it completely escapes the Earth's orbit and just goes?
Well, now your centrifuge has got to be 1,000 feet high.
Well, right now, I mean, we're a tenth of the way there. The test model was 165 feet.
And so, I mean, sure, you're out in the middle of the desert and you got nothing around. You can build whatever you want. But if at 400 pounds payload, there's not much you can put up there. You can launch a lot of the SpaceX satellites that are doing the internet from Starlink, but most satellites are several thousand pounds. I mean, it's launching a small vehicle up there.
Before you sent me this article, we didn't even have a 165-foot one in my mind. The idea of multiplying that by 10 is a lot less than the idea of going from 0 to 165. The idea, because this is literally just throwing something up in the air and hoping it doesn't come back down again.
Right.
So, to me, the next step, logically, as illogical as the logical next step is, the next step logically is throw it to where it just goes. Once you've escaped that outer part of the orbit.
Well, so Earth's gravity is still pretty strong.
Mm-hmm.
And even once you get past low Earth orbit, you're still in gravity that when you're in middle Earth and in even high Earth orbit, you don't have continued propulsion to get you past the gravitational forces that the Earth continues to have.
Meanwhile, since we're speaking of satellites, Russia has blown up a satellite and has created a dangerous debris cloud in space. I think cloud's a misleading term here. There's junk floating around as a result of this.
Yeah, the Russians decided it would be a good idea to prove to the world that they could blow up a satellite. They're one of their own satellites, I might add. When they blew up this satellite, it created 1,500 pieces of debris that are big enough to track.
Mm-hmm.
Thousands of others that are not big enough to track. And as this is going around the Earth at 17,500 miles an hour, think of a shotgun pattern that it just continues to get bigger and bigger and bigger.
Yes.
And this was getting real close to the space station, so much so that they had the astronauts inside the space station, they all had to get into the emergency escape vehicle just in case the space station got hit. They were going to have to evacuate to get back to Earth immediately.
Could they have destroyed the space station with this? Like completely destroyed it?
Heartbeat.
See, this is the part. How does this go unpunished? How does this go like?
Well, this is not the first time this has happened. China did it in 2005. India did it in 2010, and so the good news is most of these pieces, because of the Earth's gravitational forces, they do fall back and disintegrate pretty quickly.
Right, when they fall back, but while they're still out there, before they have the chance to
two, three, 4 trips around the Earth before it does make its way back in.
And just
It's not a good idea because there was a Russian on the space station right now when they did this.
Yeah, they don't care.
No, they don't.
They don't care. Something like this is going to show repercussions, but for how long?
A day or two, and then most of it's now. There's still some pieces that are going to stay up there forever because they're far enough, and they're trackable. They're big enough to where they can track and see these big, huge chunks of metal flying around at 17,500 miles an hour, just waiting to take out the next satellite. And the movie Gravity comes to mind.
Well, first of all, I never want the movie Gravity to come to mind. But secondly, yes, it does.
Yeah.
What's coming up on the show this weekend?
So we're going to we had a great question this week. The question of the week was, my child is turning 10. What should I tell her about the internet? And we go through a lot of the different things that you need to be prepared and how to prepare your kids for. And then we also talk about a lot of the bad habits that you have that are destroying your computer.
Protecting your children on the internet is not just about protecting them from others. It's about protecting them from themselves as well.
Yes.
A lot of grown-ups don't know that lesson.
Yes, and we do say, Mom, Dad, you've got to be a part of this. I mean, this is not just what your kids do, but it's also you too.
Right. Yeah. Number one on the list, the internet is forever.
Yes.
Yeah. Tech Gumbo, Saturdays and Sundays at 4, and of course, anytime, wherever you get your podcast, anytime on demand. He is Haggai Davis, the host of Tech Gumbo. He stops by every Friday, except for next Friday, where we'll be off. But the following Friday, you will be filling in for me, and I greatly appreciate that. In the meanwhile, have a happy Thanksgiving.
And to you too.
Absolutely. We got the CBS World News Roundup coming your way shortly. In our next hour, we're going to talk broadband with Veneeth Iyengar at 7:15. We're going to talk about financial cheating with Matt Kennedy after that. Clinton says the triple force has its limitations, Brian. Yeah, with that attitude. Does it have its limitations once you've escaped gravity? That was my question.
Well, that's just it. Escaping gravity is, you never escape gravity. Gravity continues to work way, way past. I mean, that's why the moon stays where it is, because of the Earth's gravitational forces.
Right.
So you're just traveling faster because the rocket continues to propel you to where you can escape the Earth's gravitational forces. But when you don't have that continued force pushing you from the rocket, you're not going to escape gravity. You're coming back to Earth.
There's got to be there's a threshold though, where you'd have to move over at least to somebody else's gravitational pull. Bless you. I wasn't good in science. I'm not gonna pretend to know this crap.
Gravity lessens the further away you get away from the bodies in space, but like the sun's gravitational pull works on Pluto, and all the
but that's planets. All. There's a lot of size that has to go into that, doesn't it?
Well, the Earth is pretty big.
Yeah, but your satellite is not.
The moon is Earth's satellite.
Oh, see, I thought it was like an inverse sort of thing. The bigger the satellite, the more the two would work on each other. Okay.
Well, I mean, you get to size. I mean, but a satellite like something we've launched up there, most of those satellites are about the size of a small car. So that's not big enough to exert any kind of real gravitational pull on anything.
Right. I thought it could be small enough to escape it. Tiffany says, "Oh my God, did you just reference Big City Greens?" Yes, and I'm glad you got the reference. Have you seen the episode where he tries to launch a chicken into space using his grandma's pantyhose? He makes a slingshot out of his grandma's pantyhose, trying to launch a chicken into space.
Troy wants to build the centrifuge on top of Mount Everest because it would be closer to space. Good luck with that, Troy.
I mean, I'm down.
Building everything up there as opposed to building it flat out in the desert where it's easier to get all your pieces and parts.
Nah, you go full IKEA, man. Bring it in.
Yeah.
Oh God. They built a centrifuge. Like, I don't know. There's way too much to unpack there. All right. That's Clinton says once you escape the Earth's gravity, you then need fuel to make corrections. I don't know why you would assume I would want to correct anything. Just go, man.
Just leave.
Just go.
We gotta get out
This
of
is-
this
no,
place.
we'll get to
Don't
fuel-
you listening to the opening of the show? You gotta get out of this place.
It's that yeah for the outside in. Yeah, go where? No, my whole thing is I just want to see if it can be done. It's can you fling something till it's perpetual?
And that's when you get into Bond villain kind of things.
Yes.
I mean, who's got that kind of money just laying around? Hey, let's go build a big old centrifuge big enough to launch a Yugo into low Earth orbit. This is, Elon Musk is building rockets. He's not into slingshots. Who's next?
Yet.
Bezos, since he didn't win, maybe, Deep Blue or whatever. No, what's
Blue Monday.
Blue Star, whatever. What's?
No, that's an ointment.
No, yeah.
Blue Monday was a song from the 80s.
Bezos is his space agency. Whatever. You're gonna have to.
Is it Blue Orbit?
Oh crap! I lost my mind. Not enough coffee yet to remember Bezos because all he does is make trillions of dollars.
Yeah, enough to build whatever it costs to build this 165-foot one. He makes 10 times that. Yeah. I'm almost a month removed from this back injury, and it is still killing me.
You never got the TENS unit, did you?
No.
Complete collision center.
I'm trying to tell you how to take care of yourself, Brian. You're gonna get old like me one day.
Yeah, well, I haven't been back to the doctor again. Don't have time.
You got Amazon.
That's true.
Get your TENS unit to take care of you. Have a great Thanksgiving, guys.
You too, Hag. Oh, hey, can you do the Thursday and the Friday? Or, cause, I mean, if not, no big deal. I can find somebody, but yeah, because. Oh, 706 Talk 107.3 FM WBRP Mornings with Brian Haldane rolling right along. Thanks again to Haggai Davis for stopping by for a cup of tech gumbo. You can get a full serving tomorrow and Sunday at 4 p.m. or anytime on demand at talk1073.com or wherever you get your podcasts. We're talking broadband with Veneeth Iyengar. In our next segment, we are talking about financial cheating on your spouse. 43% of Americans said they have been guilty of financial cheating. What does that even mean? Matt Kennedy's going to join us at 7:35 to talk about that. Looking up at the TV, and Good Morning America is reporting on, well, the headline on the bottom of the screen says, awaiting the FDA decision on extra dose of the COVID vaccine for ages 18 and up. They're covering a story right now awaiting the FDA's decision on booster shots. Can we just skip to the bottom of the page here and say the FDA says do it? Like if you were to walk up to a bookmaking window and ask what the odds were on that, I don't even think they'd give you a number. Waiting on the FDA's decision. Okay, well, bold prediction, the FDA will sign off. We have got top stories and trending coming your way in just a minute. I do need to tell you about the folks over at Complete Collision Center, though. They have two locations, one on Plank Road in Zachary, 19511 Plank Road in Zachary. The other is 9848 Perkins Road, Suite E in Baton Rouge. It's just off Perkins. It's Perkins just east of Bluebonnet. They're actually behind a little strip shopping center with a little, I believe there's a Greek and Lebanese restaurant right there. Anyway, that's the smaller of the two footprints. But both locations have all the same top quality service, all the same top quality training, all the same certifications. Doug and his team pride themselves on not just knowing how to fix your car, but knowing how to fix your car safely and having the manufacturer sign off on that level of commitment to continued education, to training. They're certified by Ford, Honda, Acura, Nissan, Infiniti, Hyundai, Kia, Fiat, Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram. Did I miss your particular make of car? Well, they've also got the iCar Gold Class certification, which right from jump puts them in the top 15% of body shops nationwide. Learn more online at CompleteCollision.com, CompleteCollision.com. Check them out or give them a call. If you're in an accident, 768-9898. 768-9898. Don't let who you choose to repair your vehicle be your second accident. Check out CompleteCollision.com. Time for top stories and trending. Let's go.
Now, top stories and trending. 5, 4, 3, 2, I let one go. On Talk 107.3 FM. The most trusted news. Brought to you by Complete Collision Center. With locations in Zachary and Baton Rouge. Don't let who you choose to repair your vehicle be your second accident. Choose CompleteCollision.com. I want to know absolutely everything that's happened up to now.
LSU's restructuring their diversity and inclusion office to fall under its newly formed Title IX offices. This news comes as the vice provost for the diversity office, Derek J. Rovaris, announced his retirement. Yesterday, the university announced Dr. Jane Cassidy, who currently leads the school's Title IX office, will continue to lead that expanded department. Two suspects, ages 17 and 18, were arrested yesterday in a shooting that left a teenager dead at a Tigerland apartment complex. BRPD said Cortland Reese, 18 years old, and an unidentified juvenile are facing charges in the November 7th killing outside of Tiger Plaza. Police said the gunfight, which killed 17-year-old Beyond Wright, happened in the middle of the day. District Attorney Hiller Moore said that apartment complex has been a hotbed for crime in the past, but there's no easy way out here. You'd have to displace a few hundred families to punish the handful of bad actors. Reese, by the way, is facing a charge of first-degree murder. That unnamed juvenile was booked into the Juvenile Detention Center on undisclosed charges. The state's Supreme Court will hear arguments next month on whether the state's largest health care provider can require its employees to be vaccinated against COVID-19. Cases involving Ochsner Health employees in the Shreveport and Lafayette areas have been consolidated by the state's highest court. A hearing is set for December 7th. Shreveport Ochsner employees opposed the vaccine requirement, who opposed the vaccine requirement, won a decision of the state's Second Circuit Court of Appeal, which blocked the mandate last month. In the Lafayette area, a state judge refused to block Ochsner's requirement. Ochsner, of course, does have facilities here in Baton Rouge as well as New Orleans. They are pretty much throughout the entire state. Capital Area Police say a Wednesday, November 17th drug bust resulted in the confiscation of a significant amount of cash, weapons, and, well, it was a drug bust, so drugs. Baton Rouge Police Street Crimes Unit yesterday partnered with the DEA HIDTA Task Force and the Baton Rouge Police Special Response Team to arrest 41-year-old Eddie Turner after executing a search warrant on Avis Avenue. Police say they confiscated a host of narcotics, a large sum of money, and multiple guns. Turner was currently out on bond for a homicide and possession with intent to distribute Schedule II charge. Turner was currently out on bond from a previous charge. He was booked in the East Baton Rouge Parish Prison on possession with intent to distribute Schedule I, possession with intent to distribute Schedule II, possession with intent to distribute Schedule III, and possession of a firearm with CDS. Grabbing this one from Elise Carmesino over at The Advocate. A judge has deferred a ruling on a judge has deferred ruling on a request from a man accused of killing a panhandler outside of Baton Rouge's Trader Joe's. He's deferred the ruling to release the medical records of the victim that would reveal whether he had a record of aggression or violence while intoxicated. In delaying the decision yesterday, 19th JDC Court Judge Kelly Balfour called the motion premature and overly broad. Balfour told the legal team of defendant Jace Boyd that he would let them file a more specific subpoena request for reconsideration. The judge also denied a motion from the defense that sought to exclude surveillance footage from a nearby Circle K, saying it should not be used because it deals with what, quote, hypothetically may or may not be introduced at the trial. Boyd is of course accused of killing 61-year-old Danny Buckley outside of Trader Joe's. He faces 1 count of second-degree murder, which carries a mandatory sentence of life in prison. He's due back in court February 24th. That's a look at your top stories. Here is a look at what's trending this morning. Sports betting, not even legal a month long in Louisiana, is off to a strong start. Quote, business has been phenomenal, says Cheryl Duhon with L'Auberge. It has far exceeded what we first expected. L'Auberge, the first casino to offer sports wagering in Baton Rouge. Duhon says the sports book is bringing in a lot of new first-time guests. State gaming officials agree sports betting should help casinos rebound from the losses they took during the pandemic. You know what? I got to swing by L'Auberge before the weekend. Might need to get by there today. Cash in my ticket from last week. Very, very important not to fold the ticket on the barcode. You know, you want to be able to scan it. Last week I took the Packers -3 against the Seahawks. Oh, yeah. Cashing checks, baby. Punching tickets. Getting over there for L'Auberge's Sportsbook. Easy peasy process, by the way, if you haven't done it. It's, you're going to walk through the casino. You find the little window, which, as you walk in, is off to the right and down a little ways. So you do have to walk through the casino a good bit. But walk right up. Boom. Place your bet. Good to go. They print the ticket out. After it pays off, you go back and cash it in. That's top stories and trending. Going to take a quick break. Coming back, Veneeth Iyengar is up next on Talk 107.3. Let me go grab Veneeth. No. All right. So, broadband.
You have a lot of money.
How was DC?
It's very good. I wasn't there for that.
Oh.
No, I didn't. I went there for there was actually a workshop focused on Gulf Coast resiliency.
Really?
Yeah. We were the only broadband office to come out, to be invited.
For resiliency.
Hurricane resiliency.
Yeah. I guess broadband would help with that. You say hurricane resiliency, I think
It's
Chip
like-
Klein. So.
No, we're talking about energy. We're talking about a bunch of different things. Like, what do we need to do to strengthen our infrastructure? Because comms was a big
Yeah, it
bugaboo
was.
coming out of, because Ida's more of a wind event rather than a rain event.
Well, yeah. Well, it wasn't a flood event because the levee system was working.
So the wind knocks out the poles, and the poles drag down the internet connectivity.
Gotcha. .716 Talk 107.3 FM WBRP mornings with Brian Haldane rolling right along. Time to welcome back to the show, and it's been a minute. Veneeth Iyengar, what's happening, man?
Good morning. Good morning.
Kind of missed you a little bit. It's been a little while.
It's been a couple of months.
It has. You are off and running, doing great things in the broadband space now, trying to bring it back home to Louisiana and get us all as connected as we care to be. Infrastructure package signed off on by the president. We're going to see it's what is it, 7
Something
billion and
guaranteed,
change that's guaranteed to come back here with us in the running for a lot more. How much of that $7 billion goes into your field? Yeah.
So right now, a guaranteed minimum of $100 million.
Okay.
Now, folks are going to say, "Yeah, I don't know if that's enough." It isn't enough.
Right.
So the way it works is that every state's going to get a minimum of $100 million depending on population, et cetera. So, so every state gets $100 million, regardless of population, rather. Then based on maps that the Federal Communications Commission's put together that helps to identify those households that don't have internet and those that do,
right,
based on population density, based on the fact that we're a high-cost state in terms of providing broadband, especially in areas like Vernon Parish, which is the largest parish in the state, but you have houses 10 miles away.
Right. Geographically the largest, not population.
Correct. Geographically, it is likely we're going to get substantially more than 100 million.
Okay, how likely? Because that's been a point of contention from more of the Republican delegation in the state as to why they voted no on the infrastructure package to begin with, because we weren't guaranteed enough money. So how likely is it, and how tough of a battle is it going to be to get these dollars?
So I'm going to operate in the actualities, in the mechanics, as opposed to the politics. Right?
Good.
So on the actualities, the way it works is, again, 100 million. And then based on these maps and all that stuff, we'll get significantly more. Based on conversations and based on what I think we're going to get, it will be substantially more.
Okay.
So there's a formula that is designed. So if you think about the money that we have right now, right, there are different pots of money. So let's park the infrastructure bill money currently today. Right now, our office is going through a competitive grant program to administer $177 million for broadband connectivity.
Okay.
That money came from the America Rescue Plan that was signed by the president this past March.
So that's outside of this $100 million from the infrastructure package. Okay.
So if I were to just even look at it, so that was also, that $177 million was also formula based. So that was 1.77% of the $10 billion for broadband that was allocated by the America Rescue Plan. So if I were to just do a straight, same proportionality, same percentage of the 1.77% that we would get from the bipartisan infrastructure bill, it'll be significantly more than $100 million that we'll get.
Well, obviously we're up to 277 now.
Yes.
Between the two.
Correct.
Okay. How much does 277 cover?
It will help. If it's 277 million, I think we'll probably be in a position to impact over 125, 150,000 households in Louisiana.
Wow. Okay, now how do you map that out, and where do you start?
So the FCC, we have a bunch of maps that we're using. So the Federal Communications has maps. The National Telecommunications Information Agency, which is, and I'm going a little bit maybe wonky from a agency perspective.
That's what we're here for.
It's a sub-agency of the U.S. Department of Commerce that's going to administer a lot of this money. So we have a variety of different maps that we have pieced together, we have put together, working with LADOTD to help us understand served versus unserved. For us, someone who has less than 25 by 3 speeds is considered unserved. 25 download, 3 upload is considered unserved. So we have a bunch of different maps, and we've administered a speed test. We tell your folks all throughout the state that they need to go to our website, connect.la.gov, and then take our speed test, which helps us understand what speeds people are getting actually.
You seen any response for that?
Yeah, we've had over 1,000 people.
Good. That's one of the things I've been curious about is the level of want from those that, I'm going to move out to the country and just disconnect. Well, now we want to connect everybody, so it's like, were you going to see some pushback in the space of, I don't want to be online?
So that is a great point you brought up. So before my trip to D.C. this week, I actually logged with our office we drove 3,500 miles around the state 2 weeks ago, over 10 days.
Okay.
We visited 25 towns.
Okay.
Part of it was just to talk about and do a temperature check locally with them with their parish officials, et cetera, on where all things are with broadband, but also to help roll out this grant program that we rolled out November 1st. I'll tell you, everywhere we went, whether it was DeRidder, DeQuincy, Manny, Leesville on the western flank of the state, to Benton, Spring Hill, Monroe, Ruston, northern flank, to Vidalia, Lake Providence, everyone wants it because they need it either because for their kids, their rural small business owner, law enforcement needs it. There are a lot of law enforcement places that don't have internet.
That's incredible.
Yes, it is. So
you just think about that. Like, law enforcement without internet is just, how do they function? Slowly.
Very slowly, just like our response, right?
Exactly.
So in the course of those conversations, people are absolutely taking the speed test, and they're like, whatever we need to do to get internet to help small business, farmers, we will do. Now, when we think about the broadband challenge that we have to solve by 29 collectively, it's access, affordability, and literacy. So even if you make it accessible, which is what our office is designed to do, if people can't pay for it, then it's a wasted investment.
Okay.
And so we have rolled out and partnered with the FCC and partnered with the other folks in the state to push out this emergency broadband benefit program which helps to pay $50 a month off your broadband bills.
Okay.
And so I looked at some data this morning. People in the EBR area, 15,000 folks have already gotten benefit from that program. So it's basically, if one member of your household has experienced a catastrophic loss of income due to the pandemic, one member of your family has a current student Pell Grant, free and reduced lunch, then they could qualify for this $50 a month off broadband.
Well, that sounds an awful lot like we're creating a whole new entitlement program.
My job is to do this legislature. My job is to execute.
Well done, sir. Well done.
Actualities.
Yes.
So if it's there, let's push it out.
Okay. Hey, I'll fight that battle with somebody else later on. But for now, yes, you take what's there and you help implement it. Now, the maps you're creating, or the maps you're either going off of or creating, are they based off of proximity to current, like if you take an area that's very well served, do you want to broaden that? No, it's not broaden, but you want to broaden that circle on the map, or are you going to places that are completely unserved and looking to create new circles and grow them back?
This is a great question. So our priority sort of rankings are, we need to first of all take care of those that don't have anything.
Right.
And there's a bunch of folks in the state that don't have anything. So that's priority A. Priority B is what we consider underserved. So, for example, let's just look at EBR, for example. There are probably places north of EBR bordering, West Feliciana, maybe to a certain degree East Feliciana, where those folks don't have anything.
Okay.
So we got to take care of those folks first. And the second is there are a bunch of folks that are underserved.
Right.
Underserved means you have it, but it's not necessarily the best. So then the step 2 would be to take care of those folks. So that's upgrading technology and upgrading to go from, let's say, copper or coax to fiber, et cetera, or something to that effect. The third then is anchor institutions, and anchor institutions are, again, hospitals, law enforcement, town halls, et cetera.
Well, and that's the problem. Like, you're hard-pressed to find hospitals in these more rural areas, at least nothing that you would have like you would have in a Baton Rouge or a Lafayette. Or
but let's say Houma, Thibodaux, areas that are impacted severely by, let's say, Ida, right? We're still in hurricane season, and it's going to start again in 7 months.
Yeah.
So it's, how do we create resiliency? How do we strengthen those anchor institutions, especially in those smaller towns' ability to react to a weather event?
Let's talk about those weather events for just a minute, because that's going to coincide with talking about terrain, talking about physically implementing this and the challenges they're in. What plays into, like, you can probably cover more, I'm just assuming.
Yeah.
You can cover more ground in North Louisiana because you're not going through the swamp.
Correct.
But you're going to have to cover more ground in between each household as well. So,
right. That's a really, it's a beautiful challenge, because when we travel around the states, it's not like there's a one-size-fit-all, right? Because geography, terrain, soil, a bunch of different things are in play, existing infrastructure, pole infrastructure. So what may work in Northeast Louisiana, East and West Carroll Parish is going to be far different than Central Louisiana, when you have beautiful pine trees and Kisatchie National Forest, and you got to go through all that stuff, right? And then it's going to be far different than in Cameron Parish or in sort of very extreme parts of Southeast Louisiana. So I think from our perspective, we really don't care what the solution is. It could be fixed wireless, so the stuff you put on water towers, et cetera, or municipal buildings. We don't really care what the technology is, so as long as it provides a guaranteed minimum speed of 100 download, 20 upload, if not higher.
Okay. I know you want to get all of it done, obviously.
Yeah.
But has there been some kind of cost analysis of where it will be done cheaper?
Yeah, so I'll tell you, to completely, I think, take care of the unserved population, which is the folks that don't have it, we think it'll be $1.2 billion.
Wow. Okay.
That's a back of the envelope
so
math.
we're a little bit under a fifth of the way there.
Yeah, but I think with what we plan to get with the infrastructure bill, more than the $100 million. On top of that, and I didn't want to mention this program because it just creates an alphabet soup of what's happening. The fall of 2020, the Federal Communications Commission awarded 13 companies $342 million to provide high-speed internet to 175,692 locations.
Okay.
That's not money coming to our office. It's not money going to the legislature. It was FCC under then Commissioner Pai, money going straight to these 13 companies to provide internet access. So if you start to stack that program plus our 177 that our office is responsible for,
right,
plus this future money, which is $100 million plus, we'll get there.
You mentioned was it access, affordability, and literacy?
Digital literacy.
Digital literacy as well. Do you need all three before moving forward in a particular?
You don't,
okay.
But if you're going to completely vanquish this divide that exists in Louisiana, then we need to really nail it. Which is why, look, I sort of miss working in the mayor's office and working here. That's a great win with rural sourcing coming here to Louisiana.
Oh, huge.
That's huge.
Yes.
Because their models fit exactly like communities in Baton Rouge. They're well funded. It's a great example of a company that is going to continue to push on leveraging and solving this digital divide in this parish, but also throughout the state. But that's a big problem because you have a lot of folks. You have, for example, farmers out in the field that struggle with cellular connectivity once they're out in the field. Those John Deere combines that they have are like transformers. They're all computer run. And so we got to get the farmers up to speed. We got to get the healthcare folks up to speed with telehealth and anything digital.
Yeah, you tell me you need to get a farmer up to speed online. I'm just imagining a guy like sitting on a tractor driving around listening to the Real Life Real Crime podcast. Like, it's not a necessity, Veneeth. Come on. When you talk about the mechanized systems, yes.
Look, farm acreage has, and I've learned all this stuff, it's just phenomenal, but farm acreage except cotton has actually increased in Louisiana.
Okay.
But prices have gone down. So if anything that we can do to help address their broadband issues, will help reduce their operating expenses, which means more money in their pockets.
Yeah, reduce cost of doing business.
Correct.
You're going to increase profit for sure.
That's right.
Do we have a timeline on seeing any implementation here? We got 30 seconds ago.
Yeah, so for us, fast, urgency. We've got to operate at the same level of urgency that people needed out in the state. Our goal is to commit and spend all $177 million, at least with our money, by this time in 24.
Oh, wow.
So we're going to try to push as far as we can, which is how do we address workforce issues now, not 6 months down later when we make these awards.
Need you around for regular updates, man.
Yeah,
I'm
absolutely.
fascinated by this because there's so many different aspects of it. And the next time we'll get into the currently served areas that need revamping because of storm. Anyway, he's Veneeth Iyengar. He's the broadband czar. Can we call you that?
Sure.
For Louisiana. I appreciate you coming in, brother.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Absolutely. We got to take a quick break for news, traffic, weather. When we come back, 43% of Americans have admitted to financial cheating. What even is that? Got my mentor coming on next segment to talk about Matt Kennedy.
Okay.
Talk about 43% of Americans say they've financially cheated on their spouse. Whether that be...
It's like, what does that mean?
It can be a million different things. Either... I'll show you the article. I need that text through anyway, because that's where the article's at. An act of deception, lining your purse with money, hiding, like stashing cash.
I learned.
No,
That's very dangerous. You get people. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, she was with me when I placed this bet.
Yeah.
But she doesn't keep up with the box scores.
Correct.
So I win
And
my
she-
bet, and now I have money. So
That's right. Okay, I get it.
yeah. No, but this is way worse than stuff like that.
Yeah,
This
yeah,
is
yeah.
more along the lines of,
It is.
everything from a hidden drug problem to being
It's
a sugar
impacting
daddy.
family. Yeah. Okay, got it.
Yeah.
We're doing really well. As in terms of how we're approaching the speed at which we're moving, we're probably top 5 in the country in terms of how we're addressing broadband.
That's good.
We're way ahead of Texas, Michigan.
I think Texas is so. I think Texas is falling. I was talking to a friend who lives in Houston the other day. He's like, "We're fine here in Houston," but and this is why I asked a question about the people that don't want in. He's like, "I got he had a buddy that's outside of San Antonio." He's like, "I don't want to be connected to anything."
That's we're not gonna solve. All we're gonna do is we're gonna provide access.
Mhm.
It's up to them if they want to pay for it.
Right.
So if a household says, "I don't want it," sure. All right, sir, ma'am, you don't want it, that's fine. But in the case you need it down the road, at least you have access to it.
Yeah. Yeah. So, well, yeah, I'll be pestering
It's a very
you.
we went on this massive road trip. It's
3,500 miles.
Yeah, it's like going from Miami to Seattle.
I mean, that's kind of What are you just like a spinning circle all the way through, or?
So we basically cut the state in half. Like if we're gonna go all the way to Shreveport, we're gonna try to hit 5 towns at once. So we'll do Shreveport, Benton, Spring Hill, Ruston, Minden. Go in the morning and then come back in the evening.
Well, since Mitch Landrieu's in charge of doling out money, I would recommend starting at Shreveport and working your way down, so you don't get to his house last. You know, because once he's served, like once all of New Orleans is covered, you're out of the game.
I think from a leadership perspective, at that level, we're in good shape in terms of getting more broadband out.
So do I. It's going to be better than my party's making it sound. It's not going to be as cut and dry and easy as it's being sold to us, but it's going to be better than we think.
Correct.
So.
We have to work really quickly because I know the apathy about government operating real slow. That's why we spend a ton of time communicating with the constituents, saying this is what's coming down the pipeline.
Mhm.
But if you want us to operate fast, y'all locally have to operate fast.
Right.
And so they're like, okay, how do I do that?
Yeah.
So there is alignment between what we do and what they do, because the folks locally will dictate the success of these projects.
Right.
And I told that to the folks in DC, and they're like, we get it.
Right. It's like like calling 911. You can't judge their response time from the time until you call.
Correct.
Like you have to call first in order for you got to know where the problem's at. So, yeah, y'all have all kinds of challenges, but we're gonna do all right. Yeah.
We'll be fine.
It's the low-lying areas that bother me.
Yeah, especially when that's the thing that keeps me up at night.
Yeah.
It's like, why put
Yeah.
And it's like, so I mean, we'll work it out.
All right. Appreciate you, man.
Happy Thanksgiving to you and your family.
And to you, always.
And we'll circle back maybe end of the year.
Okay. Yeah, definitely.
So what's to look forward to in 22?
Yeah. I want you walking up in here with a wheelbarrow full of money and just be like,
check.
you get broadband and you get broadband.
Good big check.
Yeah.
All right, man.
All right. Later, bro.
Thanks.
Where is Matt Kennedy from?
The Presley Group. Oh, wait. Presley Wealth Management. Hello, Matt. It's Brian. Nothing much, brother. You been all right? Which off ramp? Okay. Okay. Yeah. Well, we don't even do that anymore. We just hand it off to Ashley Frugier. Yes, very, very much so. I mean, like ridiculously so. And we're not got weather coming your way, all right? Hang tight. All right. Thanks. Okay.
for the comments on YouTube to be about throat punches. There's a rumor that will not die that he quit because I punched him in the throat. Yeah. It's fine. I can't make it go away. It's not true, but it is what it is.
People like to run with things.
Yeah.
The more interesting it is, the better.
737 Talk 107.3 FM, WBRP, Hour 2 of Mornings with Brian Haldane, rolling right along. So, article from CNBC says some 43% of adults with combined finances in a relationship, says they've committed an act of financial deception. This is according to a poll from the National Endowment for Financial Education. This article was shared with me by my mentor in this business, Matt Kennedy, who joins us now. Brother, how are you?
I'm fantastic. I can't help myself. I have to do it. Accident. I-10, westbound at Essen. Things are really stacked up. The left lane is blocked. Then when you get to the I-110 northbound, things are blocked at Chippewa. So if you're trying to go anywhere on I-10 up to the airport, it's a disaster. Just use airline or Florida.
I mean, you can never take, what is it? You can take the country out of the boy, but you can't take the boy out of the country or the other way around. That's right. Well, same thing with radio. He will always be dialed in. He's a machine.
Sitting in it.
Financial infidelity, financial cheating. Okay, let's start with a definition here, and then we'll have some fun. What is financial cheating?
Well, according to the article at CNBC and this survey, the Harris Company did a survey. 43% admit to it, so that means the number is probably, 73%? Cheating. You could be hiding money from your spouse. Spending money that your spouse doesn't know about. I say spouse, it could be your significant other, but I think they primarily look mostly at marriages.
Mm-hmm.
Brian, you know this. Money woes will ruin a marriage, and sometimes it's not the lack of money that ruins the marriage, but I will tell you something, especially women view cheating with money the same as going to a strip club, perhaps. You know, if you're buying stuff that they don't know about, if you're hiding cash, but every couple has a completely different way of handling money. Alyssa and I have been married over 28 years, and it's real simple. We have everything combined. We have one checking account. All the bills come out of that account. All the income flows into that account. But as a financial planner, I've observed every variation of that you can imagine. I've seen couples who he has his checking account, he has hers. It's whatever works for you as a couple. But infidelity in this case is defined as hiding money, spending money, and hiding that spending. But one of the biggies is withdrawing money from the other person's account without their knowledge.
Does the report go into anything about what the root causes of those withdrawals would be, or what the root causes of those secrets and deceptions would be? I mean, did they talk about whether or not it's like a gambling addiction, a drug addiction, being a sugar daddy? I mean, like, is there anything that like specifies where people are mostly doing their cheating?
Not really, but the article does get a little bit preachy, which I guess is fine, saying that, look, if you get into a relationship where you're combining households, just be very clear. I will tell you, I can only use myself as an example, but when Alyssa and I first got married, we made it very clear. We don't spend more than $50 on something without communicating to the other person. Our income is higher than it was 28 years ago, but that number really hasn't changed. So, dude, if I'm going to go out and buy a new driver, which I really need, I'm not going to drop $280. Can I? Yes. Will she be mad? Only if I don't communicate. If I text her and say, hey, they're having a sale, I'm going to pick up a new driver. And then, of course, the response is, do you really need that? Yeah, it's an early Christmas present. We go back and forth, but we communicated. That's how we do it. You know what I'm saying? But imagine if I buy the driver and I don't tell her until I bring the driver home. Or, guys, imagine if she goes and buys an expensive dress. In some relationships, no big deal. But the article does say, before you ever get deep into a marriage or a relationship, just make sure you're communicating about what is that limit. And if you do have separate stashes of cash, just talk about it. Say, look, I've got my honey hole. I go to that when I want to do things, so that's off limits to you. As long as you set it up in advance.
Right.
But it's the spending, but more so it's the withdrawing are the hiding of bills. That was probably the biggest one in the article, is that I owe something and I'm somehow lying about what that money is for when the money is actually for something else. Oh, honey, I had to have a crown in my tooth when actually I got a new driver.
Right. Or, but the whole thing about having the separate, mad money pots, I just, because you open yourself up to having an arbitrary number where you and your spouse might not completely agree on what goes within that, because those numbers can fluctuate as well. If you take what's in your mad money pot and turn it into more money, now you might have passed a threshold that your spouse did. I'll give you a perfect example.
Yes.
I'll give you a perfect example, and I want you to tell me if I'm guilty of financial cheating, okay?
Uh-oh.
Told my wife at the beginning of the season I'm doing daily fantasy football this year. I downloaded the DraftKings app. I put $50 into my DraftKings account, okay?
She lets you put $50? My wife gave me $5.
You're not going to get past the first Thursday, man.
Right, go ahead.
I put $50 into my DraftKings account. Now, it just so happens I'm pretty darn good at fantasy football.
You are.
So that $50 at $3 and $5 a contest turned into $120 before week 8.
Wow.
Okay. Now I actually have more money than I'm more than doubled what I started with. When it comes to the mad money, am I required or am I morally obligated to let her only know about what I'm doing with the 50 that we both talked about? Or now there's this whole new pot of money that exists that, I mean, it's a windfall. It's surplus, but it's money that could go towards bills. It's money that could go towards tuition or the kid's dentist appointment, whatever. Like, at what point, if you have separate pots of mad money, are you not committing that same level of cheating based off of something you've either earned or won?
Yeah, see, to me, it's not cheating even if you pile up wins like that.
Mm-hmm.
It's if you somehow lied to her about needing money for something else so you could cover your $50 loss in DraftKings, then you might be cheating. But that's my opinion. And by the way, you already told her because she's listening now. So.
Oh no, yeah, I don't think I'm quiet about it ever. I win $10 on DraftKings and I'm shouting about it from the rooftops. Bragging about fantasy football is what I do.
Yeah.
So.
But like I said, especially we work at Presley Wealth Management primarily with retirees,
mm-hmm.
and I would say that 85% of the people we sit down with that are married couples have one pot of money. But about 15% of couples will often divide their money, especially if it's a blended marriage. My advice is just talk about it.
Yeah.
Don't hide it, talk about it. But I would think that, one of the reasons for infidelity, though, you're right, financial infidelity, is that somebody is trying to cover up a wrong, like an addiction, like you said, gambling addiction or whatever the case is. And it's a red flag, but most importantly, Brian, it shatters trust. So just establish trust at the beginning. Like Alyssa made it real clear to me when we got married. You get $10 a week allowance. Be happy with that. That's a joke. She didn't really say that.
You didn't get a whole $10, and I know it.
It was $5. You're right.
Matt Kennedy with Presley Wealth Management is our guest. I tell you what, while I've got you on here, let's go ahead and pivot a little bit and talk about that level of communication, talk about that level of openness, and getting both in the couple on the same page, because this turns us right into a conversation about long-term planning and, honestly, setting yourself up to have more free money and more mad money on the side if you so choose. What should folks be doing around this time of year when mapping out their future, be it for 2022 or beyond?
I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll just give you a real simple rule of thumb, and it's not a perfect rule of thumb. But as you think about the end of the year, two things. Number one, the rule of thumb is called the 4% rule. How far away are you from retirement? Let's say you're 55 and you know you want to retire in 8 years.
Mm-hmm.
Look at the amount of money you, as a couple, and communicate with your spouse about this. Because I know a lot of us are guilty of saying, well, I do all the investing, and she doesn't even know how to log in. At least communicate this to her. Or, ladies, if he's the one who lets you do all the investing, communicate this to him. Take the amount of money you've saved in your 401k, IRAs, whatever the case is, and simply figure out what is 4% of that. So if you've saved up $1 million, like Brian has, multiply that by 4%. What is that? $40,000 a year.
Mm-hmm.
That's approximately how much you can withdraw to live on in retirement and not risk running out of money. Because now you'll add to that your Social Security, et cetera. So if your lifestyle requires $60,000 a year, you're going to have to save more or work longer. Figure out how much am I saving to get to a goal where I or we as a couple can afford to withdraw 4% a year? That's one rule. And the other one rule of thumb, and the other thing to think about now is taxes. Brian, it is shocking to me that the Biden administration hasn't yet pushed through massive tax reform on an individual level. But we do know this. As financial planners, we know that when the Trump tax cuts passed in 2018, there's a poison pill that was built into those tax cuts. And it says at the end of 2025, we revert back to the old higher tax brackets. Think about taxes. How do I save myself on taxes in the future when I know taxes will be higher? We talk about this on our radio show Saturday mornings, 9 o'clock, right here on Talk 107.3 FM.
I mean, he dives in with a traffic report, and then he hits the plug
Boom.
for the weekend show as well. Trained professional to the core. Matt, it all boils down to communication. I mean, at the end of the day, that's where it's all about. It's because whether, if you hit Starbucks every single day, at the end of the month, that's a pretty significant tab. You know, and if you're hiding something as simple as a cup of coffee, you could be talking about a few $100s over the course of a month, which could be just as serious as a big night out at the casino or a new driver.
Yeah, or a new driver. I hope my wife's listening. Honey, I really need a new driver. It's all about communication. And I have seen in Christy and Tiffany in our office, we have all met with every kind of couple you can imagine. But it's all about communication. Just be open. It's no different than, the emotional side of your relationship where you have to communicate. But for some reason, people love to hide cash. That the article pointed out, that's one of the biggest things. People will, I don't know how you do that today electronically, right? Because everything is direct deposit and all of that. But listen, I've seen situations where he might have a checking account that she's not even aware of. Look, if you're comfortable with that, go for it. But to me, that's cheating in a relationship.
Baffling to me. I'm like talking about, sitting on $70 worth of winnings like that's a big deal. The idea of opening a whole other checking account just floors me.
That's like having a family in Alabama your wife doesn't know about. Honey, I got to go back to Gulfport.
Well,
why you're
if it's a
busy over
family in
there?
Alabama, you're all related anyway. So your money matters tomorrow morning right here on Talk 107.3. Appreciate you, brother. Talk to you soon.
Take care. Bye-bye.
He is Matt Kennedy from Presley Wealth Management. Here's Your Money Now. That was so much fun. I miss my guy. We normally just text memes and emojis back and forth. But he hit me with that one earlier in the week, and I was like, there's no way we're not talking about this. Matt says, nailed the post. Learn from the best. Tiffy says, what's going on? I'm listening to you and Matt in the morning on Talk 107.3. I know. We don't do it enough. I need to get him in here more often. You said Mooyah? Okay. You better spend those winnings on her Christmas present. And that's the life of the man right there. Yeah, I'm going to spend my winnings on her Christmas present if I don't blow it this week. Let me scroll back to some of the stuff that was going on when Veneeth was in here. Boondoggle, I disagree. I know where you're at on that, and I completely understand and respect it. I don't agree with it. Why are taxpayers investing in building out rural broadband? Private companies, Starlink, et cetera, are working on it. We should encourage them to provide cost-effective solutions. Wouldn't that be doing the exact same thing? Anna says, we can't get internet in parts of West Baton Rouge. I have to use a mobile hotspot because AT&T will not come down our private road. I can't wait for the day we get good internet service. Well, Anna, go back to Galen's comment, and you have your answer. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
That's Matt Kennedy. Yeah. I tried finding one by really not much out there.
Go to here. Son of a bitch doesn't even have a photo on his damn LinkedIn. What a dick. Ha! What about a picture of me, Matt, and Jared Fogle from Subway? Holy crap! That ain't no good. No. No, not at all. You know what? I bet you Matt would just want you to use the Presley Wealth Management logo. You know what? No. Okay. $7:55, Talk 107.3 FM, WBRP, mornings with Brian Haldane, rolling right along. Thanks again to Matt Kennedy from Your Money Matters for hopping on board to talk about financial cheating and really planning for the future. And it's about openness and honesty. It really is. From start to finish, it's about communicating. And not just when it comes to what you've already got, but what you plan on getting as well. And Matt and I kind of ran out of time. We didn't have time to get into his end of this with Presley Wealth Management, which you can catch Saturday mornings right here on Talk 107.3, Saturday at 9, and I believe Sunday at 8 or 9 for the replay. Anyway, if you're communicating your needs, you're also communicating your goals. And if you're communicating your goals, you can get from point A to point B. That's where we were hopefully going there. But, start talking about financial cheating, there's just so many possibilities. We got CBS News coming your way shortly. Oh, don't forget, if you are looking to really hook your clients up this Christmas season, if you're buying gifts, get outside the box for just a second. Think about this for just a second. Instead of buying a gift for every client in every office that you're looking at, how about cater a lunch for them? How about hitting up Mooyah Burgers, Fries, and Shakes? Mooyah.com/catering. Mooyah.com/catering. Get yourself the burger bar where you can customize the burger to your lifestyle, to your choices, to what you like. They also have vegan and turkey burger options as well, if you so choose. You can mix it all up and have everybody in the office eat to their liking. Everybody's going to get, the big tin full of popcorn. Oh, you're really blowing things up with, I got candied pecans. Go with the Burger Bar. Mooyah.com/catering or 663-6632, or take it one step better. Ask them about it when you stop by for lunch today. Segan, north of Industrialplex, or Bluebonnet at Highland. Mooyah, burgers, fries, and shakes. Time for the Outside In. Let's roll. We're going to start off with a garbage bag full of drugs in Iberville Parish. No, this isn't Jake's future bachelor party in the making. This is a corrections officer making the rounds at a lane hunt and stumbled upon it. The bag was stuffed with pounds of marijuana, crystal meth, prescription pills, cocaine, and cell phones. Despite the shocking discovery, there's no law enforcement agency in that jurisdiction currently conducting a criminal investigation into the matter. Both the St. Gabriel Police Department and the Iberville Sheriff's Office said they are not investigating. Currently, the matter is only being investigated by the Department of Corrections. Their spokesperson said they didn't say anything about it. They just removed it in hopes that they would catch another drop and then catch the guilty party in the act. Keeping it in Iberville, a man is dead after a double shooting in Plaquemine late Wednesday night. Iberville Parish Sheriff's deputies found one victim with a gunshot wound near the corner of Dennis Street and Barrow Street. They said a second victim showed up at a hospital. The victim found in the shooting, identified as Shelby Williams, later died at a Baton Rouge hospital. Sheriff Brett Stassi says deputies are working to determine if the man shot one another or if they were shot by a third person. Closing out in Tangipahoa Parish, so many teachers and school staff plan to take the day off before school closes for Thanksgiving. They had to go ahead and shut down a day early. Yeah, they're going virtual in Tangipahoa Parish today. This is because there weren't enough substitutes to cover all the absences. School system administrators are now expected to ask the board to adjust their leave policy. The district said other corrective actions will be made to keep this from happening again in the future. If you're in Tangipahoa Parish, you're done with school until November 29th. CBS News is next. Galen says, I can't get natural gas service at my house without me paying thousands of dollars because the nearest service is 400 yards away. Any taxpayers want to help me pay it? See, this is where I get where you're coming from. I do. Getting gas is not the same as getting internet, though. I want to get to your next post is why. When Congress has no problem spending our great-grandchildren's money, they do not need to prioritize spending. Everything seems like a worthy expenditure. Okay. I'm not accepting that premise at all because everything is not a worthy expenditure. And at a certain point, we have to say we're $11 trillion into this. We need to just stop. But you can't just stop and write off the good with the bad. This is a very, very good thing. Human infrastructure is not. Like, it just, I'm not willing to close the door on it. You're at a point, Galen, where you're willing to close the door on everything, whether it's good or it's bad. Because we've spent enough. And I get you, man. It stings. It hurts the wallet. We have spent enough. And that's not an unfamiliar sentiment. But this is something that, as we continue to move forward, this is something that's going to benefit the economy. This is going to be something that creates more jobs. This is going, not just from a build-out standpoint, but the more access I have to potential customers, the more lucrative my business is going to be, the more revenue I'm going to get. The more revenue I'm going to get, the broader the tax pool will be rather than the deeper the tax pool will be. Now, fighting every other battle under the sun to curb spending, I'm right there with you. I just happen to be really bullish on this one. Just like I was bullish on the Green Bay Packers last weekend to cover the 3. Why am I not doing live reads for a sports book?
What up? I just did it. Yeah. That's what I did. I said, that's a say. When you got small children, they go digging right before
ruin everybody's Christmas and jam. He put all their gifts in a bag and now somebody ruined it. Now they all know what they get. The good thing about it, though, he didn't already wrap them in that too in the front. They don't know who's getting what.
White elephant. The Eberville white elephant. The Elaine Hunt.
Don't go there and try to sneak something in. I'm telling you that right now.
I want to know what guard is making the rounds and saying, I'm a dick to a trash bag. Is that an effective use of your time?
I'm telling you, that was all their Christmas gifts.
2 dozen cell phones.
Hell yeah, they got a
bunch of crystal meth. You had crystal meth. You had prescription pills. You had cocaine. That's a normal Friday for Jake. It's the same reference. He wasn't in here for the other one. Oh, what's happening, man? I appreciate it.
SelectQuote found Jacob 40, who's in excellent health, a 10-year, $500,000 policy for only $19 a month.
Not in perfect health? Don't worry.
SelectQuote found Tanya 40, who has type 2 diabetes, a 10-year, $500,000 policy for only $32 a month.
We shop companies like Protective, Prudential, American General, and others to find you the company with the best rates. Give your family the security they need at a price you can afford. For your free quote, call 1-800-519.
How long do I have?
Get full details on the example policies at selectquote.com/commercials. Your premium could vary depending on your health, issuing company, and other factors. Not available in all states.
.806 Talk 107.3 FM WBRP. Mornings with Brian Haldane rolling right along. Hour 3 coming your way right now. Brian here with you. Jake producing. We are nowhere near done with this show today. We got a lot of ground to cover still. We're going to be talking with Craig Mills in our next segment about the Clark Mills Project. We are going to be talking with Dr. Josh Eachus at 8:40. Get you a weekend forecast. Is tomorrow going to be as cold as today? Are we going to start to see more frequency with this revolving cold front? I mean, what was it? Just yesterday, maybe the day before, it was up to 80 degrees? Well, I saw it online. I got to steal a joke for a second. The temperature went from 80 to 50 like it saw a state trooper. I mean, it did. Nice and chilly when you woke up this morning. But also, we'll get a way too early Thanksgiving forecast from Dr. Josh. And one more before we get out of here this morning. We got some bonus YouTube content. Jason Bailey is the author of Fun City Cinema. New York City and the movies that made it. Think in your head right now, what are your top 3 New York movies? You think New York, you think movie. What 3 come to mind? I tell you what, post them up on our YouTube. We're live on YouTube right now. We take interaction all show long. Post them up. What are your top 3 New York movies? They're quintessential, where the movie plays, or the city plays a role, where the city is its own character. Top 3 New York movies. Anyway, that's all coming up before we get done with the show. Right now, it is time for Jake to take us back in time with This Day in History.
Good morning, everybody. We're tuning in now. First things first, 1805. Lewis and Clark expedition, led by Meriwether Lewis and William Clark, reaches the Pacific Ocean. First European Americans to cross the West. Next up, 1863. What?
Wait, they were the first Americans to cross. Lewis and Clark. What was the year on that one?
1805.
1805. Wow. All right, good for them.
1863, U.S. President Abraham...
They did it all without broadband, too!
Imagine.
Veneeth! God, I hope he's still listening.
Abraham Lincoln delivers his Gettysburg Address beginning 7 years ago in 1863.
It was way longer ago than that.
Yeah. 1881, meteorite lands near the village of Grossly... Wait, hold on. This is pronunciation. Grossly Benthal.
Okay.
I think. Southwest of Odessa, Ukraine. 1971, going way into the future. Disney World's Fort Wilderness opens. Can't say I'm too familiar with that.
All right.
1983, Edmonton Oilers beat New Jersey Devils 13-4.
Hey, good for them.
Wayne Gretzky calls the Devils a Mickey Mouse organization. He did it before the 11-year-olds on Twitter. Proud. 1997. I don't know how to pronounce this last. McCaughey?
Do what?
Septuplets, born to Bobby McCaughey in Des Moines, Iowa. First set of septuplets to survive infancy. They were attended by a team of 40 professionals or specialists, and they were all born within 6 minutes, from 12:48 p.m. to 12:54 p.m.
Septuplets born within 6 minutes.
Yes. It was not natural, obviously.
Well, no. Oh, my gosh. It's not a Pez dispenser.
Oh, God. Oh, why would you do that?
I'm sorry.
Oh.
Sometimes, yeah. And I was about to compound it by saying sometimes they just come out. But I was talking about my comments, not the septuplets.
I'm just going to move on for the...
You're the one that brought this up, man.
You had to make it... 1998. Vincent van Gogh's portrait of the artist without beard sells at auction for $71.5 million.
I'm sorry, could you say that again in my good ear?
Do you actually want to...
No, it was... Oh.
What?
It's a Van Gogh joke.
Okay. See, I wasn't around for Van Gogh.
Do you not learn history in school anymore? Is that where this is at?
We learn about the mitochondria in school.
That's...
See how much I'm using that now. Thanks.
Barely learned about the Mighty Ducks in school, much less the mitochondrias.
Mighty Ducks?
I don't know.
Emilio
I don't know what a
Estevez?
mitochondria is.
It's the powerhouse of the cell.
Oh.
2010. Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 1. The 7th film based on the books by J.K. Rowling is released worldwide. Last event I have to mention, 2019, LeBron James hits 25 points, 11 rebounds, and 10 assists as the LA Lakers beat the OKC Thunder 112-107 to become the first player in NBA history to record a triple-double against all 30 franchises. That is an incredible statistic.
That's not bad for the 4th best person in the history of the NBA.
Who are the top 3
Hmm?
then? Who's the 3?
Michael.
Yeah.
Dr. J.
Okay.
Pistol Pete Maravich.
I'm not gonna have an argument with that because we wouldn't have enough time.
This thing in 2004 was Malice in the Palace.
Was it?
Yeah.
Why was that not on the website?
Ron Artest, a.k.a. Meta World Peace, and Steven Jackson charge into the stands to fight with Auburn Hills fans in the final minute of the game against the Pistons.
You know, it was weird when Rasheed Wallace was trying to calm the refs down.
Yeah.
Rasheed Wallace.
Oh.
That's all the events we got. Let's get right down to the birthdays. First up, we got a legend who recently passed. Rest in peace. But Larry King was born on this day in 1933.
How in the world do I not have Larry King on my list?
It's like the first one.
Yeah, Yeah, no, I know. I'm a little upset with the list.
Fun fact, the first time I learned about Larry King's existence was watching the Bee movie in the late 2000s, because he was B. Larry King.
Okay.
Some may get that, some may not.
I saw the B movie. That was a Jerry Seinfeld and Renee Zellweger, I think.
I think so.
Yeah.
Weird movie. Adam Driver turns 38. Kylo Ren himself. Best part about the new movies.
He's fantastic.
He's a great actor.
Yeah. You ever watch him on? Have you seen him host Saturday Night Live?
No, I haven't. I've seen some of his
Ridiculous
segments.
comedic timing. The guy is off the chain.
He's really good at that, for sure. I haven't seen him host, but I've seen some of his skits. But nonetheless, happy birthday. Another legend coming up, Calvin Klein, 79 years old.
Okay.
Big influence on the industry. And finally, Jodie Foster turns 59.
What do you mean, finally? You had like 3.
4. Excuse me.
Who'd I miss?
Who did you miss?
You had Jodie Foster.
Yes.
You had Larry King.
Yes. Adam Driver.
Adam Driver.
Calvin Klein.
Calvin Klein. You
Those
did
are
not
the
have
4 I
Ted
got.
Turner.
I did not.
Okay. Did you have Meg Ryan? Meg Ryan's 60 today. Yeah. She was America's sweetheart for a little while. Also, happy birthday. Guest on the show, what was it, earlier this week or maybe last week? Ahmad Rashad.
Oh.
Yeah, Ahmad Rashad's birthday's
Happy
today.
birthday.
Yep. I mentioned Ted Turner. What about Tyga?
Ah,
Yes, Tyga. Who, by the way, was 32. I don't know much about him.
Me neither. That's
Yeah.
why I didn't really mention him.
I was trying to pull up his discography, and I got very disinterested very fast.
Do you got any more to mention, or we can move right along?
No, I mean, nothing worthwhile.
Fair enough. No deaths to mention. Let's get right to the holidays. First up, it's International Men's Day.
There's no such thing.
No, there isn't. But happy holidays, I guess.
I mean, would that be Austin Powers Day? He's an international man
Of
mystery.
If you're tuning into YouTube, you saw me do the $1 billion. Yeah, so anyway.
That wasn't Austin. That was the villain.
Played by the same actor, though.
Well, yeah, but...
National Camp Day.
Okay.
Yeah. National Play Monopoly Day. You gonna play Monopoly today?
No.
I
No,
can't say
playing
that I am
Monopoly
either.
leads to fights.
Every single time.
It just, playing Monopoly is about as divisive as logging on CNN.com. It's just, it is what it, like, it's just going to lead to fights.
Very much so. And finally, get a load of this crap. World Toilet Day.
Oh, so that was a pun.
Yeah. Yes. That is this day in history.
8:15, Talk 107.3 FM, WBRP, Mornings with Brian Haldane, rolling right along. Taking a quick break, coming back next. Yo. Southeastern do what? Line up, baby! I have no skin in that game. Craig, come on in, man. Good morning. So, we're looking like Thursday nights for practice. Oh, by the way, camera's right there. We're always on YouTube.
Thursday night sounds good.
Okay, it's I think Abby wants to play Mongoose over the winter as well. And I'm like, do you realize you're gonna be playing basketball 4 days a week? You're in 4th grade. I don't want to step on her though. She wants to do it. She wants to do it. It's gonna be weird from her going from Bo to me, back to Bo, back to me.
Yeah.
It just, but it's good. It's good for her though.
Yeah.
Like I'm encourage all the girls to play.
And
Mongoose
she
in the
does cross
spring.
country. Anything else?
Peppers or cheer or whatever the younger cheer version.
Yeah,
is.
they have a
I don't
pep
think
rally this afternoon.
Yeah, they do. I forgot about that. I don't think she's going to keep cheer after she moves from Peppers up. We don't need to get into that while we're on YouTube for sure. So.
I think it's important just to focus on the celebration of the month, not get into. I mean, it's up to you.
Yeah, no, this is.
I mean, because there's a backstory to all of this, which gets into the weeds.
And that's what I wanted to gauge your level of comfort with is how much.
I'm not going to mention my daughter's name.
No, of course not.
Yeah.
Okay. Then I'm gonna set it up this way. What's a scenario, like just Like we'll do it more under a little hypothetical sort of.
Well, we can get into the details. The award winner for the Famille d'Or award was caught into DCFS. Yeah, I want to make those. I want to make all three of them.
Okay.
How much time do I have? 10 minutes?
We have it's gonna be
5?
closer to 13.
13. Okay.
Yeah. Don't worry. It'll be very conversational.
Okay.
Easy peasy.
But I've got 3 awards: Lighthouse Award, Innovator Award, and the Famille d'Or Award. And I want to give just a 20-second background on what those awards mean and why we're awarding them to the individuals that we are. So in the hypothetical, the Famille d'Or award is actually going to a family that went through the foster care system to adopt and ended up having to relinquish the child to a family member after having custody and applying for the adoption through DCFS for 18 months.
Were you able to find out if we're able to contact them on air while we're okay?
No.
That's fine.
No.
But we can make the announcement.
Make the announcement, and then the awards will be sent out or given to them in person.
All right. 818 Talk 107.3 FM WBRP. Hour 3 of Mornings with Brian Haldane continues now. Want to shift gears here a little bit and talk about something that's honestly a little bit heavier. Honestly, a little bit. It's not your. It's going to be great by the end of the segment, I assure you. But it's going to start off with a little bit of weight to it. This is National Adoption Month, and that means a number of different things to a number of different people, both good and bad. And I want to bring on Craig Mills. He is the executive director of the Clark Mills Project. To talk a little bit about the Clark Mills Project, who they are, what they do, and if we can get into a little bit of where they're going, I want to do that as well. Craig, welcome aboard. How are you, sir?
Good morning. I'm great.
Glad to have you on here.
And before we get started, give a shout out to a basketball team that you're involved with.
14-1-1. We don't keep
Great
track.
job.
I appreciate it. No, we such a good group of girls. I'm like so blessed to have both the crew that we have, but also Tommy and Heather as well.
Assistant coach, and apparently you have some pretty decent parents too.
I hear they're all right.
Yeah.
I hear they're all right. They don't shout too much at me. They don't yell at me too
rumor.
much from across the gym, for sure. Now, for those that don't know, I coach my daughter's 4th grade Mercy basketball team, and Craig's daughter is on that team as well. So, Clark Mills Project, what is it?
We are a adoption advocacy foundation. We're a nonprofit organization, and what happened was, in an event that we got caught in a bait and switch scheme, we sought help and couldn't find any help in the state of Louisiana, at least from where we looked. State agencies, law enforcement, nonprofit, faith-based organizations, trying to figure out what do we do with our family now that we've been scammed in an adoption. No one would help us.
Bait and switch, scammed in an adoption. What goes into that, and were laws actually broken, or is this something that's just really, really shady and completely destroying with it from the inside? But there's no was law enforcement turning a blind eye, or is it just nothing they couldn't do?
All of the above.
Okay,
all of the above. Unfortunately, Louisiana has a pretty negative history in how we approach adoptions, but specifically private adoptions. When we sought to adopt a child, and then later after the fact found out that the birth mother was matching with multiple families at the same time, without our notice, without our knowledge, we ended up being the losers in this deal, and we were literally called the losers. And frankly, I didn't know I was in a competition. I didn't know that was legal in this state to compete for a baby.
Is it?
It shouldn't be.
Okay. Well, no,
it shouldn't be, and it depends upon who has the guts enough to take on the challenge of identifying an event that is really deceptive in nature.
Yeah.
There have been cases in the state that have been tried and prosecuted where a birth mother is taking money from 2 families at the same time. That wasn't clearly defined until this most recent legislative session when we actually put into the adoption laws. Think about it. 2021.
Right.
We're now defining what deception is. Where have we been for the history of time in the state of Louisiana?
Well, yeah, it's adoption, not free agency.
Exactly. And, unfortunately, some people get into the adoption world for what I believe is the wrong reasons. Whether you are a birth mother who just continues to produce a product that you have organizations, agencies licensed by the state of Louisiana who provide a service that they're making millions of dollars off of, or if you are a prospective adopted family who is going through this process from some selfish reason that you have some need that you have to have met, and someone's providing a product to you. I don't know what you call that, but here in East Baton Rouge Parish, there was someone who was prosecuted, I believe it was 2011, where she took money from two people at the same time, and was prosecuted by the DA. Unfortunately, in our situation, once we were able to uncover a lot of this information through a civil lawsuit, prescription had prescribed. The statute of limitations had expired.
Okay.
So we couldn't do anything after the fact. But I think that when law enforcement has an opportunity to resolve some of these issues across the state, they really need to look seriously at how this damages families who are really trying to do the right thing. And I've always said, Brian, if you are called to open your heart,
yes,
and open your home to someone that you don't know, there should be very little risk when it's done appropriately. And in the state today, unfortunately, part of the legislation that we had filed in 2021 would have defined what happened to us.
Okay.
Where a pregnant woman solicited us for an adoption, because I can't initiate an adoption match. That's impossible for me to do.
Okay.
It has to be from the birth mother. She controls the narrative. She controls the process. Soliciting us for an adoption under the guise that this is what she wanted to do. Legally, we can pay for living expenses. We began doing that. Again, after the fact, we found out she was bidding the baby out to multiple families, multiple agencies across the country, and unbeknownst to us, she ran. And we're out a lot of thousands of dollars, impacted the family, and that's when we sought help from these other agencies and couldn't find it. So we decided to start our own foundation. We're not attorneys. We don't provide legal advice.
Right.
But we provide experience, and we fund counseling for families who've been caught in our situation.
So the counseling, I would imagine, is really going after trying to heal two wounds. Number one, the void in the heart from opening yourself up to the vulnerability and wanting to grow your family, and then having that rejected. That would be phase one.
Yes.
Phase two is the sense of you just got duped.
Yes.
That those two things combined, I would imagine, would be very. There's no other word. Destructive.
Well, in this learning process, we have come across families who have gotten divorced through this process, and in my mind, that's insane.
It is,
and that's what we dedicated the Clark Mills Project to doing, is keeping families whole.
It's both insane and completely understandable. Like, once you see the path that they're down, like if you try to put yourself in their shoes, you would feel the same heartbreak, the same embarrassment, which is going to, I would imagine, lead to a lot of undue blame.
Correct.
Both internally and externally. And then from there, it's a snowballing down the hill.
And keep in mind, we're not talking about a vulnerable pregnant woman who changes her mind and decides to parent the child.
Right.
That is completely within her rights. We're strictly looking at the deceptive nature of what goes on when you play on people's emotions.
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, there are families out there who can't have children. So their emotions are already running pretty high.
Yeah.
They are already in a vulnerable position because they may have gone through infertility treatments, and they have that sadness about them because they couldn't even they couldn't provide children through that process. They're left with an option, which is legal in this state, of adoption.
Right.
That compounds the issues of emotions when you are deceived. And that's the reason why we put the organization together, and we have we want to recognize the people in the state of Louisiana who are really focused on helping the process. When I mean the process is looking at what is the best interest of the child first.
Right.
Then looking at what is best for the birth mother. Then following that up with who's the prospective adopted families that are available in this state. And looking at legislation, looking at government agencies, looking at how people handle their own special situations. Every situation is different. Every situation is different.
How does the Clark Mills Project go about, and I don't have a better word for this, so I apologize.
Mm-hmm.
How do you go about recruitment? How do you go about letting those who are hurting know that there's help available?
Well, we have a Facebook page.
Mhm.
It's the Clark Mills Project, and it's Clark with an E.
Mhm.
You can contact us through that. We
Okay.
also work with Elizabeth Ministries through the Catholic Church.
Okay.
And we counsel. Again, we're not attorneys. We do not give legal advice.
Right.
Where necessary, we will pay for counseling. You're tapped out. You've gone through IVF. You spent tens of thousands of dollars through a
Yeah.
fertility. You spent tens of thousands of dollars potentially through an adoption, and you're tapped out, and you got scammed. You were deceived by someone because, again, you can't initiate it. It has to be initiated from the birth mother. So
I
we
mean,
work
just-
through several different avenues, word of mouth mainly, and it's amazing what word of mouth will do.
Oh, no, completely.
The adoption process, until we got into this world, we had an idea of what it was. We knew a few people who were, but once we jumped in feet first, came out of the woodworks. People we knew for years had been impacted by adoption. 3 out of 5 Americans are impacted by adoption, whether
Yeah.
directly, indirectly,
Mhm.
or know someone who has been.
What's the normal reaction when somebody learns about the Clark Mills Project? Because I would imagine you're combining broken at the same time, and to see any ray of light come into this.
I cannot count how many times someone has said to me, "Yeah, my sister was scammed," or "Yeah, we tried and we got scammed."
Mhm.
From my perspective, Brian, it is embarrassing to tell someone that you were, and I'm using this term because this is what we were called in this process, the loser.
Yeah.
It's embarrassing.
It is. I would
It is
imagine.
embarrassing. I mean, think about your
on so many
your
different
fantasy
levels.
football.
Well,
okay,
I mean-
nobody likes to lose to Brian Haldane. So
Is what it is, though.
It is. But in all seriousness, it's not something that people tend to share.
Yeah.
And I think that's the reason why law enforcement doesn't take it seriously. Because if you get one every 10 years, I'm not going to spend my resources chasing somebody down who potentially may never be found.
Every year, the Clark Mills Project gives out a number of awards, 3 different awards. We are actually pushing up against news. And so I want to pause on the heavy end of the nature of this conversation and come back with the good news. And that is the Lighthouse Award, the Innovator Award, and the Family Door Award as well. We're going to do that live on the air. We're going to announce the winners of these awards from the Clark Mills Project when we come back. We do, however, have to take a break for news, traffic, weather. Dr. Josh Eachus, I actually texted him during the segment. I said, can we push back by about 5 minutes? Because we need to get some room to run here. And he said, yes. So we'll get your weekend forecast right after this. And we're giving out some awards to some, and there's no other word for it, heroes in this space. That's coming up your way right after we check news on Talk 107.3 FM, the new flavor of talk. Yeah, I didn't want to step on any of that to push forward to make sure we squeezed it all in. We'll take care of Josh later on.
And my attorney has warned me not to dive directly into the criminal aspect of this and make accusations.
Yeah.
There was an arrest made in our case.
We're still on. Okay.
No, that's all
Okay,
public
just make
record.
sure. Okay.
It's
I don't want anybody talking when they don't know they're hot.
It's all public record. Unfortunately, the DA dropped the charges.
Hiller?
Yes.
Wow.
And it's the case. I'm going to say this. This is to public record. You can go to the clerk of court's office and bring up all this information. The lady who was arrested and tried and sent to jail, I want to say it was 2011, maybe 2014, when they actually got her and then put her on trial. The victim in that case was an assistant attorney general.
Whoa. Really?
I'm just a poor old country boy.
Right.
That's been scammed out of thousands of dollars. I don't have any influence to have someone take my case.
Is influence something that can be raised through this? Like, can
No,
there be? Well,
it
if you
can
pass
be, but it
legislation,
shouldn't.
you can.
Why should it be?
It shouldn't have to be.
Right.
But we don't live in a land that shouldn't either.
Well, but
Ah,
going back to your question about how do people know about us?
Yeah.
Okay. Until families decide that they're going to put their pride aside, and I'm making a broad brush here. We have had families that came to us seeking help. We provided counseling for them. Until we have families look at this as, it's not your fault.
That's the hard part.
That's right. They believe I think for the most part, the ones that I've talked to, believe that it's their fault because the birth mother didn't choose them. Well, in a deceptive nature, in the environment of deceiving someone out of their money, why is this any different than after Hurricane Ida and contractors? You're desperate.
It's not.
Think about it.
It's worse.
Your house has been damaged.
Yeah.
And you are desperate to get back into your house. Desperation in building a family is an unfortunate situation in the adoption process.
Yeah.
It is. I can't gauge someone else's desperation.
Mm-hmm.
We have a biological son. That's not fair for me to do. But just because you're desperate and wanting to do something doesn't make it right for you to get scammed.
No, it makes it worse. It makes it worse,
We
Craig.
have an entire department within the Attorney General's office that goes after contractor scams because they are preying on someone who is perceived to be desperate.
Yeah.
Are
And how is-
you really desperate when your roof is not on your house?
Yeah, and I'm
Desperate.
trying to find the justification somewhere, and I'm
There's
struggling.
no
Well,
justification.
I would imagine this is not my take. I'm just trying to walk down the path. Is that you didn't choose to get hit by a hurricane? You did choose to walk down the adoption path,
Right.
but you did not choose to walk down the path where someone was just going to take your money and leave.
Right.
So
one of the things that I want to talk about it's in this document that I sent you, is that we need to look at ways that we can protect the prospective adoptive families, because we really need more people getting into the adoption process.
Yeah.
I was told once by one of the detractors of what, and that's not even fair. The guy questions our motives because he is a pro-life advocate. Well, so am I. I am too.
there's nothing more pro-life than adoption.
Correct.
That's,
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. But you've got to be able to separate the deceptive nature of what takes place in this process from what my goal is in making sure adoption is the alternative of what's left.
Yeah.
Okay. Should a pregnant woman want to parent her child? Absolutely. That's the most magical component of all of this.
Right.
That's option number one.
Mhm.
Option number two is termination.
Right.
Option number three is adoption.
Right.
Okay. Not in that order. I'm not.
No,
advocating- I'm not
I
advocating that
wasn't
order.
thinking you were talking
I'm
about
just
order.
saying these are the three options.
Right.
Okay. I'd like to have number one.
Most
I'd like to
of us would.
eliminate number two.
Yeah.
Okay. If you can't have number one and you're eliminating number two, number three is your best option.
Right. Right.
How do you get the money? How do you get the deception? How do you get the confidence? How do you get those two out? Get confidence put in when it's state run. All these regulations come from the state of Louisiana. They come
Mhm.
through the legislature.
Well, the state has to flex, and yeah.
Right. So we have to go to the state.
But the state
This
has to
guy's
respond.
telling me we don't have enough babies for the people who want to adopt. Okay, that as a matter of statistics and a matter of counting, yeah, there's a lot of people who want to adopt. But are they the right people? And what I mean by that is, are we scaring away the people with integrity who refuse to pay for a baby? We were literally told, I'm not signing my surrender until I get $500. I told her, I said, I have a biological son.
It's
I'm not doing that.
Well,
But
it's
we
a
don't-
life, not a commodity.
Unfortunately, in Louisiana, we have commoditized babies
We,
in Louisiana.
we do need to skip ahead just to the awards.
Yes,
and then
absolutely.
Okay. Do you have Josh's number?
No.
Okay. He might call in, but if not. .837 Talk 107.3 FM WBRP. Told y'all it would be heavy. I told y'all that would be a very, very heavy topic to dive into, but I also told you there would be a ray of light at the end of the tunnel. I got Craig Mills in studio from the Clark Mills Project. You can follow him on Facebook at the Clark Mills Project. Put an E on the end of Clark. Craig, there are some heroes in this story. There are some heroes in this story, to be sure. There aren't just victims. There are victims and villains. There are heroes as well. We have 3 awards that you are going to present live or announce.
Live, for the very first time that these are being announced for this year, 2021, during National Adoption Month, is the Lighthouse Award goes to the legislator, excuse me, that really looks to make Louisiana the shining city on the hill. I don't think that there's any doubt that Louisiana has some warts when it comes to adoptions. I think that's pretty evident across the industry.
To be fair, we kind of suck at a lot of things. So,
right, and we're going to try to suck a lot less with legislative help. So the Lighthouse Award is really looking for the legislator who brings thought and confidence and heartfelt motives to the adoption process. Filing legislation, pushing legislation. 2018, we had legislation pass through. 2021, we had legislation pass through. That award is going to go to Representative Rick Edmonds. He has fought tooth and nail with a lot of adversaries in this state that really don't want to see any changes. This is a multi-million-dollar industry in this state, and they don't want to. Rick Edmonds has stood up to them.
I got to ask a very insensitive question.
Yeah.
Is it taxable?
What?
The industry itself.
I
know that's the most cynical thing I could possibly think of, but good Lord.
A lot of these are nonprofit organizations.
Yeah.
One of which, and I know we're trying to get to Dr. Josh Eachus, one of which reported to the IRS in 2017 $1.3 million in revenue. So the legislator, the job of the legislature is to affect the laws that look out for the best interest of the child. One, protect the birth mother, because the birth mother needs to know you're not going to be coerced. You're not going to be talked into not parenting your child so that someone else can make money off of it.
Right.
And then lastly, the prospective adoptive families need to be protected, because we need more families with integrity who are in part of this process, because you really need to have a larger group of people for the birth mother to select. And again, like I said earlier, it's her responsibility. That she initiates it. She needs to have as many people possible selected. So the next award is our Innovator Award, and that really goes to an individual. It doesn't have to be a legislator. It doesn't have to be a government officer, but someone who is going to hold the state government accountable. Someone who's going to look at DCFS and say, are you really doing the right thing for the best interest of the child? That's what our focus is.
Yeah.
And look at other avenues that where the lawmakers come into effect. The Louisiana State Law Institute's Children's Code, hold them accountable. That's where the laws emanate. That award is going to go to Senator Sharon Hewitt from the North Shore. Rick Edmonds is here from Baton Rouge. Sharon Hewitt is this just happens to be a legislator, because I've had several conversations with her, and she is looking at the actions of DCFS and how they work with the licensed adoption agencies. Foster care is a big portion of that, and she's done a great job either filing legislation, supporting legislation through co-authoring, and really tackling these issues. The final one, Famille Dior, French for Family of Gold.
Yes.
And that's very simply, Brian, a family in Louisiana whose their own experiences through adoption has set a path for us to improve how we do adoptions in Louisiana. There's no relationship to any legislation. It is just a family who has set out to do the right thing for children in this state. That family is Courtney and Jacob Landry out of New Orleans. I had a chance to speak with Jacob some time ago regarding their own experiences, and it is a devastating story. But like what the Clark Mills Project is trying to do in keeping families together and keeping them strong and coming forward, they actually did come forward. There's an article in NOLA.com about their story. He is the proprietor of Urban South Brewery, I believe, out of New Orleans.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
Love Urban South.
Yes. I think you've had him on here before.
Well, if I haven't, Jay Ducote has for sure.
Maybe Jay Ducote.
Yeah.
Maybe Matt Moscona, one of those two. But their story is disheartening as to how the foster care system treated their attempts to adopt a child.
Mm-hmm.
And again, going back to where's your heart? I think their heart is in the right place, and that's the reason why me and my staff have elected to award Courtney and Jacob Landry with the Famille Dior.
The Famille Dior Award, and I'm sure all three of these just announced right now. Rick, Sharon, and Courtney and Jacob don't even know yet.
They don't know.
So that's
Nope.
fantastic.
I wanted to break news here with your audience. I'll be following up with the awards for them. If they want press, that's fine with them.
Well, they've got an open door over here for
Yes.
sure. And we've had I've had Rick Edmonds and Sharon Hewitt on the show regularly during the legislative session. So as more legislation
Yes,
looks
we
to
will
move
be
forward, because
filing
this
more
is something
legislation.
where if you could just start minimizing victims and whittling this number down, that would be just. I mean, that is the Lord's work, to be sure. In the meanwhile, I greatly appreciate you coming in and telling
Thanks
this
for having
story
us.
and letting the folks know about the Clark Mills Project. The Clark Mills, Clark with an E on the end of it, on Facebook. Craig, thank you so much, brother.
Don't forget National Adoption Month.
National
Celebrate it all month, but we need to do it all year.
Absolutely. Yes, you are 100% correct. He is Craig Mills from the Clark Mills Project. Go learn more about them and find out how you can help as well. Thank you, man.
Thank you.
Absolutely. We have got, I don't have a smooth way to transition from that. So I'm just going to shift gears and talk about this weekend's forecast and looking ahead to next week. Time to welcome aboard Dr. Josh Eachus. He's at WBRZ's chief meteorologist. Josh, welcome in, sir. How are you?
Doing okay, Brian. Excited for the weekend. How about you?
Very, very much so. Looking like it's going to be super cold tomorrow morning, and then we're going to start this rinse-repeat cycle again, if I'm not mistaken, correct?
Yeah, the fronts are rolling on through. Seems like we're getting them every 4 or 5 days now. We get a little stretch of cool weather and then mild, so kind of keeping everybody happy with the weather around here. You get your taste of warm, you get your taste of cold, and a shower here or there if anybody's a fan of that.
Okay, so we've been seeing this pattern on repeat. Does the pattern get shorter and we just continually stay colder, or is it going to be back up to the 80s regularly again?
Well, we shouldn't be regularly in the 80s for the next couple of weeks to months here. Any stretch in the 80s would be, unusual for the winter season. Hitting a day or two here isn't out of the ordinary, but several days in a row would be. And for now, we seem pretty locked in to get a front every couple of days, at least for the next 2 weeks or so. And that'll keep us overall close to average for the time of year.
Now, it's looking like we got a chance of rain on Sunday. Does this look like it's going to be a significant rain event, or just the same kind of showers we saw, was it yesterday or yesterday morning or day before?
Yeah, very similar. In fact, maybe a little bit less. I think we're going to have fewer, there's fewer days in between yesterday's front and Sunday's front, less time for moisture to build back in from the Gulf. So, and even still, this one's going to be coming through at night with less daytime warming to provide any kind of energy or instability for showers. So I think it may be even fewer. And primarily Sunday night could be a situation where many of us don't even notice any showers that come by.
That would be ideal. Keeping it seasonably appropriate outside while not impacting us too much with the rain. Dr. Josh Eachus is our guest. We're running through the forecast, not just for this weekend, but this repeated pattern that we're seeing that kind of brings the cold weather in with it. Josh, are we too soon to start looking ahead to Thanksgiving?
No, I actually kind of started doing that the last couple of days here, simply because some of the longer-term forecast models got my attention with the upper-level pattern. I was initially concerned that we'd be looking at kind of a severe weather or heavy rain threat in the Thursday to Saturday time frame of next week, but that's kind of backed down, but it still looks as though we're going to get a storm system coming by to bring some wet weather, maybe some thunderstorms. Timing, I'm confident, will not affect Wednesday, so travel in the region, really anywhere from Texas eastward to the coast, Georgia, Florida, you're driving, that will be fine. Flights around the country on Wednesday, areas to watch would be the Pacific Northwest and New England, but overall no major high impacts to travel weather. Thursday into Thanksgiving, we're going to get a frontal system a little closer to our area. There could be some showers as early as, let's say, dinner time or the evening. But right now, the most busy day of the week looks like it will be Friday, which I know is a big shopping day. And I also know we're going to have a lot of folks outside in New Orleans at the Bayou Classic. As of now, I'm timing out most of the rain for Friday and getting it out of here Saturday morning in time for the LSU finale. But obviously, 8-9 days out, that slows down a little bit. Maybe the Bayou Classic ends up dry, and then Tiger fans are in the wet weather on Saturday. So that's what we're probably going to be watching in terms of any impactful weather moving into next week.
Between the Bayou Classic, Black Friday shopping, and the number of folks just coming home from Thanksgiving, there's going to be a lot of people on the road Friday for sure. So I'm guessing that's those three things combined are setting off some alarms.
Yeah, I mean, it's just we haven't had a steady rain event in a while, and this is looking to be at the very least that. So, I mean, honestly, we really haven't had a period of steady rain since the remnants of Nicholas back in mid-September. It's been so dry. So, you know how it is around here. Sometimes after we go through long stretches, people forget how to drive in the rain. So that is something we certainly keep an eye on. Just any kind of change in what our status quo is can throw things off a bit.
Speaking of which, you talk about we've been dry recently since Nicholas, but have we taken any totals, taken any numbers on how we're looking for the year?
We continue to remain in that number 3 spot. I think last time you and I chatted, we were I was mentioning how it's kind of notable that it looked like it was going to be a lock to be the first or second wettest year on record after Nicholas, and it's been so dry since then that all those trailing years in the top 5 are just kind of catching up and surpassing 2021 here. So based on the next 10 days, I mean, maybe we could add another inch or so next Friday, but that wouldn't put a huge ding in the totals as to where we are right now. So very, very interesting to see how we're kind of working our way back toward average. You know, everything's reversion to the mean, and that's what's been happening over the last couple of weeks with really dry weather.
In the meanwhile, we got a great weekend in store with a little bit of overnight rain to end the weekend. He is WBRZ's chief meteorologist, Dr. Josh Eachus. Josh, I appreciate you hopping on board, man. Thank you so much.
Sure thing. If I don't catch you, happy Thanksgiving to you and yours.
And to you as well, sir. Absolutely. We've got we get Your Money Now coming your way. We've got one more segment to go on air. Actually, 2 more segments to go on YouTube as we are live on YouTube. We'll be talking with the Jason Bailey, author of the book Fun City Cinema, at Heads Up 9 o'clock. Right now, though, we will get you to Your Money Now. We'll check traffic one more time as there are still a few accidents on the interstates, and then we'll come back and close out the week next on Talk 107.3 FM, the new flavor of talk in Baton Rouge. Oh, my God. That was hard to concentrate through and not just be like an emotional wreck. Holy shit. Craig is so good.
How long is the interview at 9?
10 minutes. 8 minutes. All right. Renee says Miracle on 34th Street for her New York movie. I like it. Home Alone 2. Jake had that one earlier as well. Good job. Van Thomas says The Warriors, The Cross, and Switchblade, and Home Alone, which would be Home Alone 2.
Some would argue the second Home Alone is better than the first. No? I don't know. There's a case.
Based on what? It's the exact same jokes and gags, except this time they're in New York.
They're bigger.
Jesus. I mean, if that were the case, then The Godfather 3 would be better than The Godfather 2.
Execution is the difference.
It's the exact same cast of characters. It's just it's this much more unbelievable because of you've already been down this road.
In fairness, that's probably the only time you could ever compare Home Alone 2 to The Godfather.
Yeah.
Two totally different movie IPs and no such similarities in tone.
That was... Oh. You put one in my office that's supposed to go up here, and I've never moved it up.
Is it on?
No, why?
I'm trying to find a laptop on the network. It's got a weird name. I'm trying to figure out which one it is.
I have my laptop in my office that should be on, but probably asleep by now. On GT LAN? Or connected to the share? Or what do you mean on the...
No, it's got AVG on it, so we're trying to get AVG off.
Oh, I get all kinds of warnings on my laptop. It might be mine. .856 Talk 107.3 FM WBRP. One more segment to go on air. Got a bonus YouTube segment as well this morning. We're going to talk with Jason Bailey. He's the author of Fun City Cinema. Every once in a while, I'll have I say every once in a while, it's actually pretty frequently. We'll have the opportunity to interview authors about different books. This one really piqued my interest because I like movies. Who doesn't like movies, right? And this book is about movies that were set in New York that kind of set the stage for, here, let me just read it to you. A visual history of a great American city in flux. Fun City Cinema reveals how these classic films and legendary filmmakers took their inspiration from New York City's grittiness and splendor, creating what we can now view as accidental documentaries of the city's modes and moods. In addition to the extensively researched and reported text, the book includes both historical photographs and production materials, as well as still frames, behind-the-scenes photos, posters, and original interviews. Then they list a cast of characters beyond that. They take a look at 10 movies within, or I should say, author Jason Bailey takes a look at 10 movies within Fun City Cinema. But it's such an incomplete list. So I was kind of asking you to post on YouTube. What are some, when you think New York in movie, like New York is the backdrop for the movie, New York is the character within the movie, what movie do you come up with? And it's crazy how generational it is. My number one is Ghostbusters, which honestly my number one should be Ghostbusters 2 because they literally like hijacked the Statue of Liberty. But my most iconic image of the Statue of Liberty is actually in Godfather 2 when young Vito Corleone comes across. Remember, he's going to be quarantined at Ellis Island until he passed 2 COVID tests? No? Okay, fine. Hey, the holidays, they're here. Thanksgiving is less than a week away. If you have not yet taken advantage of the Jumpstart plan over at Go Slim Nutrition, I highly encourage you to try and do so. Get ahead of the holidays this year before you pack on a little extra weight on Thanksgiving, through the Christmas parties, through the tins of candied pecans and popcorn and every office party that's going to hit over the course of the next month and then Christmas on into New Year's. Start your new year off right by getting ahead of the game now by visiting Go Slim Nutrition, GEAUX SlimBR.com. You can call it 763-9600. Jumpstart plans are available right now. Or swing on by. I'll be there a little bit after 10 o'clock this morning for my way in. I'll be happy to introduce you to Vicky and her team. I'll be happy to buy you a protein bar or a shake, either way. Try them out. But I'm telling you, I tell you every day, it's not about the food. It's about the accountability and the program itself. GEAUX SlimBR.com, 763-9600. Or just swing on by. They are on Blue Bonneted Perkins, right next door to Rouse's for Go Slim Nutrition. Not enough time to dive into a whole other topic, just enough time for us to round out the week. Thank y'all so much for tuning in this week. I've got a lot already planned for next week. Shortened week for Thanksgiving, but nonetheless, we'll hit the ground running on Monday. We'll talk to you then. All right. Quick turnaround to get the board set up to where I'm hearing the phone, and so they should be calling like right now. There they are.
Perfect. Yes, we're on time. We're ready for him right now. It's going to be recorded, and put him in.
All right. You ready for me? Is it all set to record? All right. Good morning, Jason. How are you?
Hi, Brian. How's it going?
Going very well. I just getting you set to record, and we are good to go. All right. Joined right now by Jason Bailey. He is the author of Fun City Cinema, and I got to tell you, this thing sounds fun from the start. You don't have to be a New Yorker to have a love affair with New York. You don't have to be a New Yorker to love the movies that come out of New York. Look, here in South Louisiana, New Orleans always plays a backdrop in movies where it becomes its own character. New York is the exact same. Jason, welcome to Talk 107.3. How are you, man?
I'm great, Brian. Thank you so much for having me, man.
No, glad to have you on here. Glad to be talking about this book. This sounds like one of those ones where it was an impossible job to whittle down the number of movies that you actually covered. Before we get to that, though, what's Fun City Cinema about?
Well, it's a 100-year dual history of New York City and New York City movies and their intersections. And the sort of the general idea being that the great New York movies are movies that are influenced by whatever was happening in the city at that moment. So if you understand the history of New York City, politically, socially, economically, you can sort of better understand why these movies are so great and so effective.
you've got a list of movies here that spans, like you said, decades, so that it's a cross-section of time throughout the city, starting with The Jazz Singer back in 1927 and ending with Frances Ha in 2012. I'm actually not familiar with that movie, but how did you whittle down to get this particular list?
Right. Well, the idea was, the way the book is structured is we tell it, it's over 100 years, we do it in 10 chapters, and each chapter covers a decade in New York's history, and sort of each chapter I needed to focus on a definitive New York movie of that decade. In each of them, it was mostly important to me to find a movie that was a great snapshot, a picture of the city, but that also was sort of commenting directly or indirectly on what the city was in that decade. And so once I had those sort of parameters in mind, a lot of these became very easy choices. I mean, when you think of New York City in the 70s and how grimy and trashy and sort of sketchy it was, Taxi Driver leaps to mind. Same thing with Midnight Cowboy in the 60s. On some of the other ones, it gets a little more complicated and a little more comprehensive, but like The Jazz Singer was the obvious pick for me in the 20s, just because in the 20s, New York was the cultural center of the universe. It was where great music was being made and Broadway shows and literature, and also advances in technology. And since it was the first sort of singing, talking movie and set in New York and sort of a snapshot of the immigrant experience on the Lower East Side, it was like, okay, we got to go with that one. King Kong in the 30s, similar kind of thing. Empire State Building had just gone up when that film was made, and so putting King Kong on the top of that was sort of an easy choice for them, and so King Kong for the 30s became the easy choice for me. And on down the line, each time it was like, okay, well, I've seen a lot of these movies, but what is the one that really speaks to New York right then?
Right. Oh, goodness gracious. I'm still at a point where I'm like, I feel like this book is going to spark more conversations like arguing about Dr. J versus Michael Jordan, like the fights you can get into at Christmas parties where there is no definitive answer. Like, was 2019 LSU better than 2001 Miami? The answer to that is yes. But like, okay, I've been asking throughout my show this morning for folks to contribute on our live chat their favorites, and I got to tell you, none of the ones that you had made the list from the contributors that chimed in. Everything from Home Alone 2 to Ghostbusters to The Godfather to what was it? Something in the Switchblade. French Connection, Dog Day Afternoon. Like, they're all over the place. And I would imagine, Jason, a lot of your motivation here was let's just get the ball rolling and get people talking.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. I will say this too. We do the format of the book is such that each chapter does focus on that one key movie, but at the end of each chapter, there's a section called Now Playing, where I have a series of sort of standalone essays about some of the other great movies of that decade.
Okay.
So I assure you many of the titles that you mentioned are covered in that area, or sort of sideways in the chapter and so forth. The one per decade was to give us a focus, because you got to have a focus with this much material. But I also, I watched or rewatched about 300 movies over the course of researching the book, and these were very hard choices to make, especially those 70s ones you mentioned. Like Taxi Driver was very hard to settle on because there were so many incredible New York movies in the 70s.
So, okay, and that right there, when you mentioned the 70s, I feel like the 70s might have been, because in researching this interview, I didn't realize how many iconic New York movies, or how many times New York was the iconic backdrop for movies in the 70s. I mean, the list just goes on and on and on. You watch 300, that probably doesn't even cover just that one decade.
Right. Yeah, and a lot of that was about the fact that New York City had not been a movie-making center for about 50 years until the mid-1960s. It was logistically really complicated to make movies in New York, and then Mayor John Lindsay in the mid-60s signed an executive order that made it much easier, that streamlined the process, and suddenly there was this huge explosion of movie making in New York. What was funny about that was that the years right after that were also when the city kind of went into the toilet. That was when crime started to rise, tax revenues went down, social services went down, there were garbage strikes and transit strikes, and suddenly there were all of these movie makers in New York capturing the city's decline and blasting it onto movie screens all around the country. So I think part of that, too, is why there are so many great movies, and because, that kind of tension and conflict, that makes for good drama, and that feeling of sort of desperation of urban living is really present in so many of those movies that we're talking about.
100%. And so it brings out a lot of drama, but it also brings out a lot of comedy. I'm not seeing any comedies on your list here, and I don't know how Police Academy did. You talk about New York going downhill. Police Academy, for crying out loud.
Well, the thing is, there are a lot of great New York movies that are comedies. What's funny about that is the ones in the 70s are incredibly bleak. You know, they're movies, I don't know if you've seen, like, Where's Papa, or, you know, The Out-of-Towners, or Little Murders, which are these movies that are all about, you know, that are just as dark about urban living as things like Taxi Driver, but, you know, they're making jokes out of the fact that you can't walk through Central Park without getting mugged. That changed a bit in the 1980s when we started seeing more kind of fish out of water comedies, movies about wide-eyed outsiders who come to New York and we get laughs out of what a crazy place it is, but ultimately they come to love and accept it. So things like Coming to America and Crocodile Dundee, or Splash, which is a literal fish out of water comedy. The New York movie, the New York City that we see in those movies is still scary, but they're having some fun with it. And I think that's a real sort of, it's fun to track those changes in how the city's presented comedically over the years.
Yeah, and when you look at the list, it's one of those ones where you can have discussion all day long, but what are you kicking off? I mean, there's nothing you could boot from this list to replace with something else when it's all said and done.
Right. Exactly.
Being miserable and treating other people like dirt is every New Yorker's God-given right. That's a line from the mayor of New York in Ghostbusters, too, and I think that's kind of emblematic of a lot of what went into this. He is Jason Bailey, author of Fun City Cinema. The book's out now. Where can folks get it?
You can get it at Amazon. You can get it at your local bookstores. You can actually, there are links to all the places you can order it on our website, which is funcitycinema.com. And also on there, you can listen to our spin-off podcast, or you can catch that on any of your podcatchers. It's a deep dive into more about these movies, some of the stuff we didn't have room for in the book. We talk to filmmakers and film critics and historians and all sorts of stuff on there as well.
Are there plans in the works to do other cities?
You know what? That all depends on if this one sells, and if it does, I'm happy to cover any other city that would like me to.
We're bringing you down here. You're doing New Orleans next. He is Jason Bailey, author of Fun City Cinema. Appreciate the time, man.
Thanks, Brian.
Absolutely. I told you that would be fun. Oh, I'm still on YouTube. There we go. Nope. Am I on YouTube still? Okay, then because I wasn't hearing myself anymore. I told you that would be fun. So let's go through a couple more here. How about, and these are completely off the rails, Mr. Popper's Penguins. Mr. Tavern on the Green, right? You've Got Mail. It's Meg Ryan's birthday. Why not? There's so many. You just can't whittle the list down enough. That guy was a lot of fun. I can't tell you how much I appreciate. You know what? It's not going to be a YouTube only segment. That's going to air Monday. All right. So I got less work to do Monday. I don't know what time we're airing it Monday, but it will definitely air Monday. Hey, couple of notes for next week. First of all, it will be Thanksgiving week, so we'll have Thursday and Friday off, obvi. Beyond that, it's also Bayou Classic week. Bayou Classic is back in New Orleans this year after being played up at Shreveport last year. The U.S. Army does this amazing thing where they'll run the football from Southern to the Dome. We're going to have them on, I believe, Tuesday at 8:40 to talk about it. Sucks after talking to Josh Eachus. It sounds like it's going to rain on their whole run, but they're going to run up Airline Highway, so they won't be holding up the interstate for sure. But physically running the ball. Anyway. Guys, thank y'all so much for joining me all week this week. Thank you so much for your time and your indulgence with things like Fun City Cinema. Go check the book out. It seems like a lot of fun. I will see y'all next week. Have a great weekend. Go Tigers.